live.
We are live. Well, we are nuts all the time. So there you go. Welcome to behind the scenes of PM and the PM. Hey, chat. It's amazing to see you all here this evening, even though I really can't see you because technologically I'm very limited. So I don't have you two up right now, but I know all the best of the best are here. And this is Pong and Mav and the PM on October the 6th, 2022 already. And we are here to once again praise and bow down to the gaming gods for blessing us with another week, which it seems like we're probably on week 10 straight of just crazy news coming through. But they have blessed us yet again with a week full of topics. Like Mav and I, there's no way we could do a 5-6 hour show tonight easy with everything that's dropped this week. So, but we're glad you all joined us. And if you're not joining us live, you're just hopping in here, or you're gonna check out the audio side of things later. Hey, love you. Thank you for all joining me and Mav this evening. We're going to have a good show tonight and appreciate every single one of you. But let's get to my co-host, the man of the hour. Actually, he's man of many hours because he does many streams. In fact, he does impromptu streams on topics that we're supposed to talk about on a Thursday night because he can't just handle it. He's got like a little kid on Christmas. He's got to go open the gifts and talk about things. But this man is special. He runs Fun Speculation Channel along with his amazing, beautiful wife, Caitlin, who does all of the thumbnails, etc. behind the scenes, joins our shows. But they are a powerhouse couple. And we've got one right here, Mav, Fun Speculation, a.k.a. the best of the best, one of the greatest in the community, an insider, personal best friend to Major Nelson. What is going on, Mav? How the hell are you?
Wow, this is that was almost like one of those intros you do, man.
It just kept going. Yeah. I just kept rambling.
Love it. Half of the powerhouse couple, though. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm also the lesser half of that for sure.
Good answer. Good answer.
Especially in the thumbnail category, for sure. That's been pointed out numerous times. But shout out to everybody in the chat. We're gonna have a big show, a huge, enormous, massive show today. One of the biggest for sure. I'm looking forward to talking about a lot of this stuff. And you're right, Pong. I couldn't resist going live last night. I had like a hype level and energy that was stemming from the not just the fact that the Brazil approved the acquisition, but like the language that was used and the words that were said. That was just like crazy. So I had to run with that. But I'm really curious to get all your takes on that stuff, man. But other than that, dude, just been busy playing games, and NBA has been absolutely still a big thing for me. I don't even know what else I play. I played some Halo, dabbled in this and that. I haven't really gotten sucked into anything else majorly right now. I did play some Far Cry 6 the other day. But it's been a busy week besides that, like just with work stuff and everything. So I haven't had as much time as I wanted to play stuff. But man, the news keeps on coming and absolutely crazy stuff, dude. But how have you been, man? Been trucking along?
Yeah, chugging along. Busy week for myself as well. I actually haven't played a whole lot this week compared to normal. And weird stuff. Again, you guys know me. I'm a grazer. So you never know what I'm going to say. And I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but with my external hard drive, obviously I got a lot of games on there. And every once in a while, you just start hopping through games and you come across an old game that you dabbled in, but never really played. And you just sit down and all of a sudden you start playing and you have a great time. Bard's Tale 4, Director's Cut, out of all things, in Exile.
Wow.
Yeah, in Exile, 30 FPS. It's not boosted, so it's 30 FPS, but it's an old school RPG. And I started fooling around with that and having a great time. I'd played it before, but somehow I erased my save, so I had to start over. And like I started playing through it, and I didn't remember the beginning, so I was like, well, maybe I never did try this.
Right.
And I got to a certain point, and I'm like, no, I played this. And then I'm like, yeah, I went through all this already. So I messed around with that. Hard Space Shipbreaker a little bit here and there, not as much as I was just because I didn't have the time. I've been going to bed earlier and earlier here and getting home later, which sucks, but it is real life. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if I dabbled in anything else as well this week. I don't think I did. I'm sure there's probably a couple other games in there. Yeah, it was a really busy week, but like you said, Matt, the news is like almost tough. I've been off Twitter for more frequently for longer periods of time during the day because of work. And I come back and there's just a million things, but the mornings have been just crazy nonstop. Like we were talking in the background of the DMs. When I started sending all the news to our DMs today, I had to go back to Monday, and I actually started Sunday night with the Horizon Forbidden West stuff. And I was like, that happened this week? What? That happened? That really happened this week? It feels just crazy. And we got big news today, as we always do on a Thursday, but we didn't even need the news today because yesterday and the day before were so filled with stuff, including, my God, news from PlayStation and Herman Holst interview that literally causes, Mav, an 8-hour spaces. An 8-hour spaces.
I don't even get 8 hours
folks.
of sleep, man.
Brother, I've seen these spaces before, and I've seen them start when I wake up and ending after work. I've seen this before, but I haven't seen one of these in a while. But the circus had to get together. They had to get their story straight. They had to take all in what Herman Holst was talking about. But yeah, we got that stuff going on. Of course, we've got Brazil siding with Xbox, literally as if they had called one of us, Matt. We had the CMA that seemed like they had just taken Sony's notes, and that's what they were using for their talking points. Well, the final decision from Brazil sounded like they were listening to our podcast and taking notes and just came out with everything that we had to say. It is amazing. We're going to dive into that as well. Plus, we got a bunch of little stuff. Need for Speed Unbound showing up and looking strange in some ways, but also pretty cool in some ways. We'll get into thoughts on that. We've got a lot. We got a new Modern Warfare 2 trailer that dropped today.
Dude.
Incredible. Fucking incredible.
Wow. I hadn't watched that till you sent it to in that long list of DMs. I hadn't had a chance to yet, and I saw that. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, whoa, really? Okay. You're right about those facial animations, man.
Facial animations are just fucking out of this
it's
world.
Like like they're just people that they just kind of made look almost like video game characters. You know
almost
what I mean?
A filter.
Right.
Like almost like an Instagram filter, a TikTok filter.
Yeah, that's what exactly it looks like. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to get into that a little bit too as well, but we got a lot to get down and dirty with. Let me try to shout out some people here with my limited tech. Talos Ray, awesome to see you as always. Stuff Sean Spooky, the breathtaking gamer, of course, showing up in here, brother. Great to see you. UK Lad, awesome to see you, brother. OCD Gamer, Frizzle is in the house. Who else we got? We got Ray Oid. We got RSJ Fan. Awesome to see you, my friend. Razor NZ, all the way from New Zealand, yet again showing up for another one of our shows. We got McGruber in the house. What's going on, McGruber? Great to have you here. Joining us, Masshole 19. Yeah, that's all I can think of. Masshole 1977. Great to see you as well. Patman Jones, shout out to you. I saw you tweet out that you were going to be here, so I appreciate that. Again, the wonderful, beautiful Caitlin is in here. Nice to see you so much. Who else we got? Nix, brother, what's going on? Nix, how's it going? Andrew Cullinane, Sick Slayer is, of course, dropping by to say hi. Gogo Poe is in the house as well. We got brother from another Psychonauts dropping on in here to say hi as well. Shizno Elite, what's going on, brother? Great to see you. Def Leopard, you already know. Great to have you a part of our chat. Polly Baba, awesome to see you, brother, as well. Thank you for dropping in. Mitchie Dies a lot. Great to see you. Who else we got in here? Am I missing anybody else? I think I got pretty much everybody.
So a few more just popped through here. There's Poochie. What's up, Poochie? And
Poochie, yo!
Asa says, me too, me too.
Hi, Asa. What's going on, brother? Great to see you. Again, Asa from Game On Daily, of course. He's got to control the sauciest of the saucy Gaz, who is out of control right now on Twitter. He's absolutely out of control with everything going on. I'm sorry, Asa. I'm sorry. I know it's a hard job, man. I don't know how you got
babysitting
but
all the time?
Yeah, the whole time. But shout out to Game On Daily. Everybody go check them out as well, of course. Great website and shows over there. All right, Mav. We got to get down to business here, brother. Otherwise, we are going to be going to PM in the AM again, which we've almost done before. we don't get down. So where do
Yeah.
we start? Should we do this? We don't really have anything like negative this week. Like we always try to get the downer stuff out of the way. We don't really have
Yeah,
any.
there's not. I mean, like the most downer stuff. If you're like
Yeah.
one of those people that was in one of those spaces for 8 hours, you can maybe say there's some downer news, but that's not really downer news.
Yeah, that's not really. Yeah, no, that was common sense.
Yeah, this common sense stuff. Let's start with Need for Speed, bro. Because
Okay, Need for Speed.
Yeah.
Let's jump into something fun then. All right, so everybody knew, or most people did, if you're paying attention in the community, that there's been smoke that EA was going to drop a new Need for Speed this year. Well, we are, again, October 6th, and we hadn't heard anything outside of just seeing these smoke signals and people behind the scenes kind of talking about it every once in a while. And then this week, we started getting a little bit more clarity, and people started talking like, hey, they're going to show off Need for Speed this week. And not only are they going to show it off, but it's going to drop December the 2nd, I believe is what everybody was saying.
Yeah.
And sure enough, lo and behold, week goes on. I think, yesterday, we got a leak from a Japanese website who leaked the cover and some in-screen photos. And so we got that. So then we found out, well, we already knew that it was Need for Speed Unbound was the name, but we got to see what it was kind of looking like. And I got to say, man, you and I were in the DMs when we first before we saw the trailer today.
Yeah.
Which again, for anybody who doesn't know, they did drop a trailer today, starring ASAP Rocky, of course, and his Mercedes. But before we'd seen the trailer, we saw the cover photo and the artwork. And we knew, because thanks to Jeff Grubb, who was one of the first to leak it, I think he was the first to leak it, that they were going to go with this combination realism plus anime-styled kind of graphics.
Yeah.
And so we saw the cover shot and left us scratching our head a little bit. I was like,
I wasn't feeling that cover art.
No, they got they got ASAP Rocky's Mercedes, and it's obviously starting to drift. So they got the smoke, but then in the smoke they had dollar signs and they had anarchy symbols.
Yeah,
and
that was the like, stuff that was throwing me off. I was like, this isn't making. I understand the animated graphic stuff, but like when you threw in those symbols and stuff, I was kind of with you. I'm like, where are they going? And I got X Defiant vibes from that a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're just trying to do this thing. But there's good news, Pong, because that wasn't where it ended, right?
No, that was not where it ended, because we got the trailer today. And the trailer, while it didn't have as much gameplay as I was hoping for, and I know they're probably going to do a full blowout here at some point. This was just the first time we've ever seen it. But I was really hoping, because it's so late, we were going to get more gameplay. But they showed us the trailer today. And they showed us, it showed better than I was expecting after seeing that cover page. Again, Need for Speed for me is going to be a lot of how it feels when I get to play it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to always kind of judge this stuff, because Need for Speeds always look good. But I got to say, man, the combination of, and I don't care about, ASAP Rocky. I don't care about that. I don't care about any of that stuff. But the combination of the real vehicles with these animated characters and some of the special animated effects really showed well. Now, there's some that I'm already kind of annoyed with, that I'm like, can I turn this stuff off while I'm racing? Because it's going to bother me if I don't. But I thought it showed better. But what I will say too, Mav, is this is current gen only. They confirmed that today. This is current gen only. And you can tell. And I'll go through the list after. First, I want to get your initial impressions after you saw the trailer. And then I'll go through the list of some of the things we found out today confirmed about this title. But what did you think when you first saw the trailer?
So at first, like, when I saw the cover photo, I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting, right? But then I was already starting to get on board when we got the leaked screenshots from yesterday that had the multiple vehicles. And when I saw that, I'm getting those old school Fast and Furious, almost Need for Speed Underground vibes immediately, right? And because that's when that game came out. It was in that era, right? And that was a big tuner scene time, right? Like, nighttime racing and street racing, was at its peak probably around that time, right? And I was like, wow, okay, this is really interesting. Now seeing this has given me those vibes, and then that was reinforced with this trailer, right? Now what I didn't expect is the characters, like the characters, like
yes,
I was really liking it, You know why? Because it was refreshing.
Yes.
It was refreshing seeing like the character models, and I don't know if you can create your own. That'd be really cool if you could create your own character that kind of looks like that, right? Um, I like the blend, man. It like mixing those characters like that are racing in real looking cars, right? Realistic cars with amazing graphics, beautiful, beautiful cars, right?
Yes.
The city looked beautiful, all that stuff. So it was amazing. And then seeing those characters is like kind of adds like another little flavor to it, like something that's refreshing and different for the genre, which I feel like has gone kind of stale, right? For a long time. And Need for Speed's tried to find new ways of doing things for a long time, and this was like, I'm starting to understand why they went with that name Unbound a little bit. It's like kind of breaking the walls down and allowing themselves to be creative in new ways potentially. Right. And that's what this screams at me, is like creativity, just allowing the developers to have fun with this thing and kind of go nuts. And that was refreshing to see. So again, like it's going to come down to the feel of the cars 100%, because that was my biggest issue with Heat for me. The good news is this one is Criterion. So we'll see. They've had a long time now. We don't know how it's going to play. Right. But this is a good first step. Now, I'm wondering if because they were nervous about the style and showcasing it to people is why they held it off for so long, right? Because it's so different. You know what I mean? And the longer you have it out there, people can get kind of sick of it, or like maybe like start picking it apart or whatever. But now this is less than 2 months from this game to come out. And in a holiday season that doesn't I mean, there's a lot of stuff to play, obviously, but it's nothing like compared to early next year. So I think they're confident with it right now, and we're going to see how it does. I'm excited to dive in, dude. The one other thing about the graphics and stuff that are going to be showing up there, I'm wondering if they did some of that too to allow for more customization. Because if you can customize the graphics that are showing up as well, that'd be pretty sick, right? Like you can have your own flair and style, and imagine like multiplayer racing. You going around and have everybody's like racing, and you get really some of the character from their car based on the effects that it's producing with the smoke and the boost and stuff like that. So I'm kind of digging it. I really am.
Yeah, no, and I have to agree with you there. That's the one thing, like I said, I want to know if they give us the option to turn off the graphics while racing, because I do think some of it could get annoying. But I was also thinking on your line or your train of thought as well, Mav, if they allow you to customize and kind of pick and choose what you have show up, that would be freaking cool. Because I did see on some of those leaked photos, like you could have like an animated like neon star on your rim, like over the top. Like so if they do allow for that customization, I think that is a neat aspect. And again, some of it I really like. Like I liked some of the drifting smoke and those kind of looks. That stuff really caught me. But like when you take off on a jump and there's wings sprouting out of the side of the car, I was like, all right, it's a little much, but okay. But I think that they might allow for that. We got more details too, man, but I do have to again say that if you haven't watched the trailer yet, go watch the trailer and kind of ignore. Well, you can't really ignore the effects, but just look at the city and look at the short clips that are in there of actual gameplay. Look at the clips, look at the city, look at the reflections, look at the cars themselves. This is current gen only, and it's showing. I'm not saying this is the best looking game we've seen yet.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is you can tell that they weren't bound by Unbound. Pun intended. They weren't bound by last gen consoles. They obviously from the beginning or very early on in development decided to go to current gen and PC only. And you can tell. I think this is going to be one of the better looking games that we've gotten so far. Criterion, using this DICE engine, seem to have nailed it. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. But let me give you a few more details here, Mav. You tell me kind of what stands out here. So runs at 4K 60 using, did I say DICE engine? Frostbite engine, excuse me. Makers by DICE. Runs 4K 60 FPS using the Frostbite engine. Roaming open world called Lakeshore. And we did get a map as well today, and it looks gigantic.
Trying to play the trailer.
Brand new high frame. I don't understand this one, but whatever. Brand new high frame rate physics system. I don't understand. Like, so we got a new physics system. Okay, cool. I don't know why the high frame rates in there.
Yeah, what is that? What does physics have to? If maybe a dev can answer that question.
Yeah. I was gonna ask 3 bit earlier today, and I forgot because I got busy at work. Multiplayer with crossplay, which is beautiful. Free post-launch content, always nice to hear. And this is the one that made me really happy because when it comes to racing games, I'm not a multiplayer guy. I don't enjoy racing online against people because there's too many idiots. And I just can't stand it when somebody doesn't want to race clean and they want to play derby cars like you're playing against you're playing single player. I hate that. So it bothers me. So I'm focused on this. They confirmed an offline single player racing with campaign. That was music to my ears. And then, like I said, we got the map. You can go find the map. The map is big. We also got a list of all the cars. And this also caught my attention, Matt. Because they said in the interview that they were going back to their street racing roots.
Right.
Okay. Which we could tell. Like you said, it looks like Underground. It reminds me of Underground as well. It really does. But in the list of cars available, we've got Ferraris. We got Lamborghinis. We got McLarens. We got a Koenigsegg. Not necessarily a street scene, really. You don't see too many Ferraris racing around the streets. So that was like, I'm a big tuner guy. I love Ferraris, okay?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Ferrari's my favorite car. But I'm a big tuner guy. That's what Need for Speed, and I know they've done plenty of different types of Need for Speeds, okay? Again, I've been playing since the beginning, so I understand. Different cars, including high-end supercars, have been in Need for Speeds in the past. So again, I'm not taking away from that. I'm just saying the style of game they're going for, and with the interview saying that they're going back to the roots of street racing to introduce these cars, kind of has me scratching my head. Again, not a big complaint. I don't.
It's like they're trying to appease everybody, right? Instead of just really go in one direction, right?
One direction with the tuner scene. Yeah, and I know the tuner scene isn't as big as it used to be when we were prime. Again, I'm an old guy, so I grew up in the tuner scene, right? I owned a Mitsubishi Evolution, okay? So I was a part of the tuner scene. So for me, that's always going to be my king. But it's fine. Like I said, you don't have to use them if you don't want to, but I'll wind up getting a Ferrari anyway. I just thought that was a little weird. But Mav, some of the highlights there, 4K 60 using the Frostbite, roaming open world called Lakeshore, and obviously multiplayer with crossplay, huge, and the free post-launch content and the offline single-player campaign. What's got you excited about those, brother?
Everything.
Good answer.
It seems like Need for Speed's back. You know what I mean? They're trying to bring it back to its roots, but also a fresh take on it. So they're not just redoing Underground, right? Which I think, honestly, that could have been a mistake at this point now because it's just been so long now. I've always said I want Underground, but like in the sense of the style of it, like, and I get the nighttime city racing tuner scene all from this, but it's also got the other cars for everybody, right? And the tricky thing is, like, what are you going to be able to do with those cars? Like, what are you going to be able to do to a Koenigsegg, right? Because all the crazy stuff they have on here, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like wrapping my head around that. But, dude, I mean, it just looks like what I would want from Need for Speed's revival, It's very interesting with the graphics and the style there. But it makes it to where I feel like I'm experiencing something new. You know what I mean? Like, because I've experienced Underground before. I've experienced open world racers before. I've experienced all those things you said. But I haven't experienced it with this visual flair and style that this is going for, right? So that makes it feel different and new, right? And like Calorie was saying in the chat, it said high frame rate is how many calculations it can do per second. Makes for better physics interactions to do more physics frame calculations per second. Learned this from Criterion Dev on Dealer's channel. Okay, right on. Yeah, so that's awesome. Whatever they need to do to make the cars feel better than the last couple Need for Speeds is a bonus.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because for me, that honestly, like, there was also some visual issues, right? If you made comparisons to some other games that were out there, the cities and stuff were kind of bland and not very fun to drive around or whatever, and it kind of felt like stale, this does not look stale.
No.
Right? In any sense, and the nighttime with the lights and everything, we talked a lot about, like, we want a Tokyo nighttime racing game. We say it over and over and over again, but
Yes.
this has a little bit of that vibe to it. It's Chicago
Mhm.
based. It's kind of based on Chicago. They got like a lake where it's kind of overlooking the lake and stuff. So, man, there's a lot of cool takeaways from that. And the map looks nice and big too.
Yes.
So,
It looks
lots of fun
varied.
stuff to
There's
do here.
lots of highway. There's also country. There's lots of different
Yeah.
variation. But to your point,
And
Mav,
cops were highlighted a lot in this too. So
yeah,
that's going
I
to be a
was just
big
going to say that because
aspect.
Razor NZ mentioned that in the chat, and that's the one question I do have. I want to see more on how the cops work, and are they Mav? Are they going to give us a cops versus racer mode in multiplayer? Because that might get me to do some
Yeah.
multiplayer.
Yeah, that'd be
there.
cool. You know, what'd be cool is if you could like invade somebody's game as a cop.
Yes, as a cop.
Like if
yes.
they're open world race, you could turn it on. Like to
Yep.
allow invasions. Kind of like what games do that now. Deathloop, right? Like it's
Yeah.
Deathloop. You
Sniper
turn
Elite. Sniper Elite.
Sniper Elite. Yeah, you turn it
Yep.
on, allow for an
Yep.
invasion, and like a friend can try and screw you up as a cop. That'd
And
be
you
amazing.
get a supercar.
Yeah.
Right? All the other cops got the regular car. You jump in with the supercar.
Yeah, you get the Lambo cop car like from the Hot Pursuits.
Hot Pursuit.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Oh yeah, that would be fun. That'd be an interesting mode. If they don't have it right away, I'm sure Criterion will look into it. It makes sense to do it that way if they're going to kind of make this. I don't know what their plans are. They really haven't talked about what their plans are for this game. We don't know what the microtransaction situation is going to look like on this game. Obviously, you can tell that the special effects that they're probably going to have a whole store full of special effects that you can buy. I mean, I
Mhm.
could see
That's
it
why I
already
think they're
in
going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, but we got to see if this is a games as a service, if they're planning on this is a platform like everybody's been kind of doing with certain games.
Did
like
they
if
announce
this
the
is-
price yet? Is it 70?
Yes, I believe they. Oh, I don't know if they actually came out. I thought I saw somebody say 70, but I could be wrong. I'm sure it is. It's EA. I don't.
Yeah,
know.
EA and the next gen only. So
Yes,
you know.
it's going to be $70. It's going to be $70, but you do get the 10-hour free trial with the EA Play. So if you got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, guess what? That's going to be my friend. I'm definitely going to be trying this out. It's going to give me a good feel for the cars. But yeah, overall, what I was going to say, Mav, is to your point, the one thing it has going for it is it does stand out from the rest. They did with how they decided to go with the visual styling. They have already a win in one of their columns. Now, not everybody's going to like it, but it does stand out. It does make itself different from all the other racers. Like you said, sometimes with racers that can continue to feel kind of all the same or a blend of different ones. This one, you're not going to get that. It's not going to be like that. This is going to be its own thing just because of the visual stylization. So good on Criterion. I'm glad they made this shift. It's a gutsy move. It's a bold move. I love when devs decide to do something like this and go against the grain, because this is completely against the grain. Like I said, they're going to have some Need for Speed people that go, no, this is not what I wanted. But I do applaud them for trying something different, and I think it's going to work out for them. Like you said, I think there's a lot of positives here to this style. So, yeah, that was definitely good news today. Good to see Need for Speed back. Mav and I have been preaching. We're old Need for Speed guys. We've wanted this for a long time. We want that franchise, just like Battlefield, to come back again. Need for Speed holds a special place in my heart.
Resurgence of genre is coming back in a big way. Racing genre has been dominated by Forza, which is amazing.
Yes.
You have fighting games genres just been dominated by NetherRealm last gen, pretty much, right? With their games, right? So Tekken's coming back, Street Fighter's coming back, Need for Speed's coming back now in hopefully a big way. Want these franchises to come back to prominence. So
right,
I welcome that.
No, I welcome it too. Chat, let us know if you're excited. It seems like everybody in the chat is loving it. I saw Shizno in there just absolutely loving it up. Great to hear that, brother. A lot of people in there saying they liked it.
And they're
so
saying it is 70.
It is 70. Okay. Yeah. As I figured. So, yeah, great way to start. Because Need for Speed looks like it's going to be something cool. And like I said, with that 10-hour trial, that's huge. I can't wait to try it out and see if I'm going to dive fully in to this one. Because the control is going to be everything, man. The control really is.
Yeah. For sure.
For sure. Where to next? You know what, Mav? We gotta go to something that made me smile this week. Had a lot of heartbreak this year with Starfield being delayed, and I did my whole
another game that you were excited for got delayed today too. The System Shock.
Yeah, System Shock. smaller level, but yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
excited for that one, but that's okay. They can take their time with System Shock. It's looking fantastic. It looks gorgeous. So I can't wait to jump back into that too. Stalker. There's been a lot of games that I lost out, but Starfield was my big one. But the one game that I've been pounding the table for ever since day one, when everybody or a lot of people had abandoned ship and jumped on the hate train, is having a resurgence, man.
I know what you're talking about now. Yep.
Yeah. And of course, that's Cyberpunk 2077. And of course, we're not going to talk about that again. But if you haven't tried it, go play it. Go play it. You can find it on sale real cheap. Go play it. But Mav, we got big CDPR news.
Yeah, a lot, man. A lot of news.
Huge. Like I said, I started going back through and I'm like, oh my God, that's right. That was this week. Holy shit. So CD Projekt Red basically, well, didn't basically, they did. They came out and provided a full roadmap. Now, we've had this conversation, Matt. Some companies seem to be pulling back from showing things and talking about things until they're ready. We've seen this discourse. Are things shown too early? Are things talked about too early? How does it, where do you find the correct balance? How much information do you give your potential consumers, the gamers out there, before it is a problem? Well, CDPR, CD Projekt Red, decided to take the complete opposite route here. They just came out and said, here's our entire roadmap.
Love this.
Yes, I do love it. It's confident. It's everything that you want out of a developer. We're going to give you the whole roadmap. We're not just going to give you the roadmap of games. We're going to give you the roadmap of how we're expanding our studios, because we are expanding our studios. And now we're going to go to dedicated teams on each of these IP. There's no longer going to be one big team working on everything. We're going to have dedicated teams. We're going to make some moves internally. We're going to have one of the heads kind of go to an intermediary role between the devs and management. So a lot from CDPR, but let's jump into the cool gaming stuff here first, Matt. So shout out to Benji Sales again, is always coming through and breaking it down whenever information is launched, along with Idle Sloth and Cloverio and all the other favorites out there that get this done. But Benji Sales broke down and said, CD Projekt just revealed their entire upcoming roadmap. Sirius, codename Sirius, not Sirius Radio, for people who remember Sirius Radio. It's not that, okay? Sirius is the code name for an entire new trilogy of Witcher's games. Then we got Orion, and of course, this one is the one that put the smile on my face, Mav. I was so worried that they weren't going to go back to Cyberpunk after what happened to 2077, but we got confirmation that they're not just going back to it. They're already thinking about a brand new game, and they've got a code name Orion, which is the next Cyberpunk game, already beginning pre-production. Then, if that wasn't enough, so we got a trilogy of new Witcher games.
Yeah.
Then they're working on Cyberpunk, a next Cyberpunk. This is going to be, and I'll just kind of give you guys, they broke down their studios now. They're opening a new studio in Boston, and that team in Boston, along with the core Cyberpunk team over at headquarters in Poland, of course, CDPR is located in Poland. That core team and the new studio in Boston are going to be specifically working on this new Cyberpunk game. But if that wasn't enough, they announced a brand new IP codenamed Hadar, or Hadar. Hadar, I think is how it's pronounced.
Hodor.
H-A-D-R. I don't think it's Hodor.
Hodor.
So they announced all this. Now let's break this down a little bit, Mav, and I'll get your thoughts on it. So the deal with The Witcher is there was some confusion, because when they talked about this in their different slides and what they brought out, and they broke it down. They went through Twitter and they broke down each thing. It was amazing. It was an awesome job. But they talked about The Witcher and saying that this next trilogy was basically going to be done in 6 years. Well, people ran and said, you're going to have 3 games in 6 years, CDPR? Really? And obviously, Benji came out and corrected it. He said, no, you got to go back and read it again. The first game is far out. The first game we shouldn't expect to see for 3 to 4 years. And then after that, the next 2 games in that trilogy will be out in the following 6 years. So it's going to be like a 3-4 year window before we see the new Witcher. And then 3 years in between the next two, which is all doable. It's still aggressive, but it's doable. And don't forget, everybody, they're moving to the Unreal Engine 5 for all of these games. They're done with Red. Their proprietary engine is done. They're moving to Unreal. They're hoping that's going to help with production. It's hoping they're going to help with timelines, all the stuff that Unreal brings. So they're moving to Unreal. So, a total of 3 new Witcher games in the next 9 to 10 years. Doable. I could see it happening. And then let me see here if I have the other ones too. So Orion, I don't have the breakdown. So they're going to have a brand new trilogy, and it's going to start something. It's going to start a fresh kind of story from The Witcher. So once they get done with the current Witcher, that's going to start the new storyline within The Witcher. So they're going to have 3 games. And they have one that's a spin-off kind of, but they said it's going to be a full-blown game. They said this is not going to be a short game. It's not going to be like a smaller slice of The Witcher. It's still going to be big. So CD Projekt Red got a lot going on here, man. What the hell are they thinking, breaking this down for us and giving us timelines and saying, here you go, gamers. We're out. We're in here. What do you think here,
brother? Dude, love it, man. Like, absolutely love it. Like, I like the transparency of it, like showcasing the plans. Now, here's the thing. Not all of this may come to fruition, right? Just because when they do stuff like this, that's why a lot of these companies don't do this, is because they don't want the backlash or, if stuff doesn't happen the way they said. But I still like to know the plans of what they're doing with these franchises and what the direction is. And it's like they have because it gives me confidence that they have a plan, right? They have a clear-cut plan on where they want to take these, and it kind of cements the confidence of some of these franchises that we love. Plus, also the new IP. What is that going to be? You start wrapping your head around that. They make Cyberpunk, they make The Witcher. You can imagine something else. Maybe I don't know. I can imagine like a million different things that they could try and do, right? I mean, because they got the fantasy thing down now, and they got this Cyberpunk thing now. So what is the next thing? Maybe space exploration, or who knows? Maybe they'll go the maybe post-apocalyptic, right? Go the Todd Howard route. Who knows, man? Like what direction they're gonna take. But I love the vision that they have for this. Also, they did say that they're going to be introducing multiplayer components to some of their some of those games.
Yes,
right. But they said it in a way to enhance the single player experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking like some From Software type things going on there. You know what I mean? Like assistant stuff or whatever. Who knows exactly? Maybe,
or it's just dev talk and it's really just multiplayer that they're going to add.
Maybe. Right.
Continue. Right.
Yeah.
So they get that stream of revenue. That's
who knows exactly. I could imagine, but like, okay, imagine in The Witcher 3, right?
Yes.
Let's say you go into a place and you sit down to play Gwent. All of a sudden, you are in a multiplayer match of Gwent.
Correct.
That would be pretty cool, yes. Right? Yes. Things like that, right? Or different table games and things that could introduce to kind of make the world seem more lived in or something like that. I could foresee them doing something. You could look back at Fable as examples of how games have kind of transitioned to introducing multiplayer elements as well. Some more successful than others, but that's going to be one of the big things here. But it's just cool to see CD Projekt Red, which a lot of people were really worried about when Cyberpunk launched, right? To kind of lay out, hey, the next 10 years plan here for them. And it's going to be a fun one. If you're a gamer and you like RPGs, you should be celebrating this, right? Because they're one of the best out there. I think they learned some of their lessons from from Cyberpunk, and
I hope so.
The last generation is going to be a thing in the past for them anyway, moving forward. So hopefully that helps with the development, as well as moving to the Unreal Engine 5 for them as well. It seems like they have made the proper plans to try and make their vision a reality. Right. So with moving to the Unreal, it makes it probably easier to outsource things if you have to, and also do all these different things, that's maybe required. And
to hire people.
Yeah.
That's what part of the rumors with the Halo situation was, because it's so hard to hire for these proprietary engines, because most of the dev world works in Unity, works in Unreal, works in other areas. So it's very hard to get people to commit to a job that's in a proprietary engine where they've
Yeah.
got to relearn a lot of the knowledge that they already have. When they could go to another project and just
With
drop
all
right
the
in
hiring
and
that's
be
going on in
comfortable.
gaming right now, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes,
Yeah, you
yes,
can have
yes.
pick and choice for a lot of the most talented, at least out there, right? So, it's pretty crazy, man. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of the franchises and whatever the new franchise is. That's what excites me the most, the possibility of what that's going to be. But Witcher
Yes.
4, or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
is going to be one of the biggest and most anticipated games ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was,
Just
for a
'cause
lot
of
of
what the
people, it was
game
game of generation last gen, right?
And they confirmed yet again that the next gen patch is coming this year for Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And they're launching a brand new edition as well, complete edition with everything they've already had one, but this one is specifically for current gen consoles.
Yeah.
So it'll come with the patch and all that stuff, but obviously they're still saying this year, which is huge. And then, like I alluded to, also joint CEO Marcin Ivinsky also put out a message saying that he was stepping down from his position. He was going to step back away from the company. Obviously, he was the face of the delays. He was the one talking about the delays. He was also the face of the problems. When the problems came out, he was the one that did the talking. And
He's the one that issued all those yellow
Yep.
postcards on Twitter.
Yep. And he shouldered the responsibility
Yeah.
for the problems with last gen consoles and all the issues and all the bugs and everything that we know happened with Cyberpunk. He shouldered it all, but he's stepping back. And like I said, he is expected to take on a role that's more of an advisory role, but he's also going to be an intermediary between the devs and the management team so that they make sure that what happened with 2077 never happens again. Now, I got to say, Matt, that this is great. I love the transparency. Obviously, they're not backing away from anything. They're actually doubling down on Cyberpunk. They're opening a brand new studio in Boston. A lot of this seems like a lot of fanfare for your stockholders, right? For your shareholders. A lot of it seems to say, hey, we know we screwed up and it's cost us a lot, but we aren't going anywhere. And in fact, we're going to grow. And in fact, we're going to continue with the IP that has made us successful. And that's going to include Cyberpunk because it has now hit 20 million. And with Cyberpunk specifically, they came out and said the next game will realize the full potential of Cyberpunk. And what that said to me as somebody who absolutely thinks Cyberpunk 2077 is a GOAT, on my list, my opinion, is a GOAT, one of the greatest of all time that I've ever played. I believe that says to me that all those promises that we made in 2077 that we didn't keep, that people keep reminding us of, this next iteration, we're going to blow it out of the water. We're going to do everything that we had originally envisioned. We're not going to mess around, and you're going to get it before the end of this generation. And we're going to kind of make it up to you guys. I think there's still time. It'll be towards the end of the generation, I believe, when we see this new Cyberpunk. But with them moving to Unreal and all that stuff, I think that might speed up the process. But I think we'll probably see Cyberpunk before we close out, the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5. So I think that's big news for me from the Cyberpunk side of things. And then, like you said, Matt, the new IP, what are they going to do? They pulled The Witcher. I believe The Witcher was originally a book series, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they took inspiration from. And then obviously Cyberpunk was a tabletop game, which they took inspiration from and teamed up to make that. Where are they going to get their next game? What has inspired them to start a brand new IP, like you said, Mal? And how is it going to be different? Because they're not going to go back and do another Cyberpunk. They're not going to do another Witcher-style game. So where are they going next? Are they going something more, spacey? Are they going somewhere that we haven't seen before? That does interest me. I can't wait to hear more about Hater for sure. So CD Projekt Red doing big things this week. I was glad to see this. This was awesome. Got a lot of people excited. Really, really great, fantastic news. All right, Mav. So let's start here. We might have a little Sony run right now. Let's do a Sony run. So Sunday night, we'll start with the smaller news first, but it got everybody's attention and everybody talking early in the week. So Sunday night, it came out. Rumor is, again, it's rumor, but there's been some leaks that seem to verify this is happening. Horizon Zero Dawn, the original Horizon.
Oh yeah, this was this week.
Yes.
What?
It was Sunday night. Yes.
Okay.
Sunday night.
Wow.
When this popped off. Yeah. Zero Dawn being remade. It's only 5 years old, Mav.
Yeah.
PlayStation going back to the well yet again and coming up with another remake, remaster, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
So they, some of the rumors are they're bringing some of the animations from Forbidden West into Zero Dawn, because obviously some of the animations in Zero Dawn are older. PS4, where it started. It's already been updated for PS5, man. People forget this.
Yeah,
It
they
already is
boosted
60
it
frames.
and
Yes.
did that whole thing. And also, if you
Yes.
own a PS5 and you're a PS Plus member, you already own the game also.
Correct.
So you can already
Correct.
play it at 4K 60 and you already have it
Now,
automatically.
now, why are they going back to the well? Why are they doing this? What's your thought?
Well, because they haven't sold it 4 times yet. That's their goal. I mean, their single player franchises are their most profitable, or some of them anyway, according to, we'll get into that later in that interview. Some of their first party games are still their most profitable. Maybe like, The Last of Us Part 1, which have already been sold 3 times and going to be sold for a 4th when it hits PC. That's why, because it's only been sold once, Pong. That's why they're doing it, so they can sell it a second time and eventually or actually it's already been sold twice, right? Once on console, once on PC. This will be the 3rd time.
Yep.
In the future there'll be a 4th, at some point. Well, unless this version is actually going to be available on separate purchases for console and PC, which I'm sure that'll be a thing. So that will actually get them to 4. So they need to get all their franchises to be sold 4 times.
Okay.
All their games. That's what it is. That's a rule. I think it's a rule that they have now. Hey, all of our games, we're going to sell it 4 times to maximize the profit.
It fills up the content stream, right? It fills up your content roadmap.
Yeah, absolutely.
While all your studios start doing games as a service, while you still got studios working on your first, your heavy narrative driven third person over the shoulder type games, which again has been confirmed that's not going away, of course. But while they're getting their act together, they got to fill the pipeline, Matt, because they know what Xbox has coming. Despite their fans not believing that Xbox studios are working on games.
Yeah, how many times have you seen on Twitter like this week? What does Xbox even have coming out? They don't have anything. Right. It's crazy.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. They're all painting their toenails and throwing parties and having a good time.
They haven't even released a first party game in 2 years.
Right. None of these studios are working on anything.
Yeah.
So, but Sony, PlayStation, Jim Ryan, Herman Holst, they know what Xbox has coming down the road.
Yeah.
And they know what it's going to look like starting in 2023 next year. And they've got to fill some gaps. And they've got to fill them fast. So what do, man? You take some of your loved franchises and you rework them, even if they are only 5 years old. Even if they already have a PlayStation 5 patch that's boosted it. You rework it. And you fill up that content pipeline, because Jim Ryan, again, could do a lot of dumb things. He could say a lot of stupid things. The dude knows numbers, and he knows his fan base very well. And we see the loud minority of that fan base on Twitter.
Yeah.
But he knows. He's got them trained. Just like Nintendo's trained their fan base. He's got them trained at this point now. They will defend this. And many of them, not all of them, some of them just talk to talk. They don't actually behind the scenes do what they say they're going to do. But many of them, enough, do go back out and rebuy these games yet again for a 3rd time or a 4th time, like you said, Mav. They will do it. And a remake, remaster of a 5-year-old game takes very minimal effort. It doesn't take a whole lot to polish that sucker up. So your ROI, your return on investment, is going to be high, even if you have a small percentage of your fan base rebuy. And of course, it also adds to your marketing capabilities when it comes to PS5. You get to market it all over again. You get to bundle it in with your PS5. Didn't cost you much to make.
Get a show coming out.
Bundle it in.
Also,
got a show coming out. I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah.
That's the big one. You see Sony's plan. They're filling their pipeline with content, but they are now on that train, which I don't fault them for. They've got these IP that they are doing this transmedia stuff with, much like we've heard Lars over at Embracer Group talk about. They've got the IP to do this transmedia. I don't fault them for creating a Horizon show. I really don't. And I don't fault them for coming up with a game to go along with that, even if it is an old remaster. I don't, because there are lifts. You can see lifts. Now, it's not always Cyberpunk level. We saw what just happened with Cyberpunk with the anime Edge Runners on Netflix. It reignited people's curiosity for Cyberpunk. And we're not talking about 1,000 people. We're not talking about 10,000 people. We're talking about millions of people went and tried Cyberpunk, went and bought Cyberpunk for the first time, or finally played it as it's been sitting there on their shelf collecting dust or in their back catalog. They finally went and played that. So this transmedia thing is no joke, and Sony gets it. Sony, again, they're a media company. They're movies. They've been doing this. They understand the power. They've got Spider-Man. They know exactly the power that this can have. And even if it's on a smaller scale, even if it's not Spider-Man levels, with Horizon, on a smaller scale, that show will lift some sales into a game that you have coming out alongside of it, even if it is an old one. This is a move by Sony. It kind of fills a couple different roles for Sony. I think it's ridiculous for a 5-year-old game. I think it's even more ridiculous for a game that's already gotten a patch on a PS5. But again, business-wise, I understand why they're doing it. And again, until the fan base stops buying into this garbage, which they won't. Again, they've been trained like Nintendo fans. It's cool. It's, again, respect the hustle at the end of the day. They've trained their fan base to start going along with this stuff. So until they stop, which they're never going to do, then Sony's going to continue to do this. For the people joking about God of War getting a remake next, it's probably not a joke, man. It's probably not. God of War 2019 is going to come back, and they're going to launch it again. I don't doubt it for a minute. So very interesting news out of Sony this week. And we had spaces on that as well because we had to start that whole thing. And yes, I do believe they're going to charge $70 for it. I don't think there's any reason to believe that they're going to.
Yeah, they're going to bundle it with this multiplayer thing they're talking about.
Yes.
I think, and that's another aspect to it, Pong. I think that this is a way for them to use their IP that they have to try and grow a multiplayer fan base there, because if for some reason multiplayer gaming besides like the big multiplat games haven't really taken off, very well on PlayStation. And I think for them, they're looking at, okay, what succeeded in the past? The Last of Us Factions mode got pretty popular. So that now they're blowing that up into its own big thing instead of including it in its own with Last of Us Part 1. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, they said that they're doing a big multiplayer thing for that. I think they're going to try and take advantage of some of their biggest IP to transition that to help them get this live service future of PlayStation off the ground as well. And maybe the remakester of Horizon Zero Dawn will be a way to help introduce that to the fan base as well, right? So I don't know exactly how it's going to be bundled in or whatever, but you got to figure out a way to charge $70 for them, right? They did it with Miles Morales and Spider-Man Remastered. That was the first thing, right? Then you have the director's cuts.
Last of Us.
Then you have The Last of Us Part 1. So this is going to be another avenue for them probably on this game. And hey, why not? It's not going to take them probably that much time to do this single player remake. And that's one of the ways they can get these games out faster, right?
Yep.
So.
And Guerrilla's got experience in multiplayer.
But I would much rather them bring back one of these other franchises.
Right. I agree with you. But from a business standpoint, they are buying themselves more time out. And again, the pattern is showing itself. As much as the clown
it's just not exciting for their fans, right? Like
wants to deny it. Yeah, right. But you can see what they're doing. Like you can see Jim's plan and Herman Holst's plan here. They're going to now, moving forward, have multiplayer attached to as many IP as possible. Again, not everyone's going to hit. Not everyone's going to be a big giant hit. But what you will get is your hardcore fans of that game will constantly engage with that multiplayer no matter what. And then all you need is one of them or two of them to hit bigger than normal. And all of a sudden, you got a good stream of revenue constantly coming in. They understand what's happened. Their hardcore fan base, their vocal fan base on Twitter may deny that they can see this as a future. But Jim and Herman and the rest of the team over there do understand what they need. And they need these revenues. And the only way they're going to get these streams is by tacking on multiplayer to as many things as possible.
Yeah.
Still give them the single player experience that they all know and love, but tack on that multiplayer so that they can continue to engage, and you can get those microtransactions that going, because those single player games don't allow for a whole lot of microtransactions at all. And DLC is very expensive to produce, depending on the size of DLC that you're talking about. It can be very expensive. And Jim, he's not into that. He wants ROI. He wants big return on investment. So multiplayer is one way to do it. So yeah, that was interesting, Mav. Again, a lot of talk. I think it's weird, but I understand from a business standpoint what they're doing. And again, it's going to fill a bunch of different needs. And thank you for bringing the multiplayer. I did forget to mention that. So yeah, no, that was huge. A big part of it as well. Then let's continue with Sony here, and then we'll get into the big topic. I know the chat's waiting. We got over 100 people in here. We will get to the Brazilian celebration. All right, so let's do this. Herman Holst, and again, folks, I'm going to read from Axios here. So we're going to get he did an interview. I watched the interview. I actually watched.
This is pretty big news too. Not necessarily that surprises us.
No,
but it's like a shock to a lot of people that were in denial about this.
8-hour spaces, Mav. 8 hours, a full-time day for work talking about this.
Did the host get paid for a full shift?
No. Of course he didn't. No, he got paid through his ego because he had a bunch of people talking to him.
Okay.
So
that's how it works. Got it.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yes.
Oh wait, before we get started on this, we do have a super chat real quick.
Oh yeah, thank you, because I can't see those.
Yeah, $2 super chat from Polybaba. Shout out to Polybaba. Appreciate you. Said a Witcher Monster Hunter multiplayer would be dope. A Witcher game, kind of like Monster Hunter style. I could get behind that. That's a good idea, actually, because
co-op style,
it would make sense for the lore of the series too. A bunch of Witchers run around trying to capture, a monster, kill a monster.
I'm down with that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
share potions.
Why not? Hey, Monster Hunter genres are all the rage right now. So we just saw Wild Hearts again showing off this week. So why not? I agree. Yeah, good idea. All right. So for anybody who doesn't know, Herman Holst gave an interview. Again, I like Herman. Personally, I think he should be out in front of the cameras. I think they should just move Jim to the behind the scenes stuff and let Herman even talk about the big financial stuff, because Herman's just better at it, period. He's more personable. Again, he's more down to earth. You can see, Mav, I think it was you that pointed out, I think you put out a tweet this week after the Herman Holst interview that said, if you remember, just say it, but you said something like, why is it when we see Sony execs talk about things, it seems like they don't know or don't.
Yeah, it's like anytime we see these Sony executives like in an interview or whatever, it's like they're kind of winging it.
Yeah.
Right. There's not like it's not like there's like a clear 100% ironclad plan that they're willing to share with people. So when they're asked a question, they're like, I think we'll see this, or I think we'll see that. You know what I mean? Where like, and maybe that's because they don't 100% know, right? But we've seen that at this entire generation, and leading to like them saying one thing and doing another a lot, right? So when they sit in an interview and they're like, I think you'll see this, like, I think there's a lot of truth to what Herman Holst is saying. But I think he's like kind of holding back what he really wants to say a lot, right?
Yeah.
But he comes across as more casual. But it is interesting for me when you see like hear an interview from Jim Ryan or hear an interview from Herman Holst or whatever. It's less clear about what the 100% vision is for that company right now, right?
Yeah, and because they're in an uncomfortable spot.
Yeah,
they're in unknown waters right now. For them, they are in unknown waters. They are starting to play a new game where the rules were created by Microsoft and Xbox, and you can see it. They're treading water and blindly trying to find their way through this and trying to still hold on to their sinking ship of the old business ways while trying to find this new way forward to land. And you can see that lack of confidence that we normally associate with Sony execs, that we normally associate with Sony as a company. We haven't seen him in this position in quite a long time, going back to the PS3 era. And actually, in the PS3 era, they had enough ego going where they just doubled and tripled down for the most part, and you never really saw them not be confident, even when they were failing miserably or having huge issues with the cell processor. They still put on the front like everything was cool.
Yeah.
Now they don't know where they're at. And Jim and Herman, and I agree with you. Most of the time when Herman talked, he's a pretty confident dude. He's got a presence about him. And like I said, he's more down to earth. He's a people kind of person. He's a salesman. You could tell that through and through. But now, when in this interview, there was a lot of looking away, like looking up, thinking about like you guys will see me do when I forget things or I'm trying to remember something. There was a lot of that in this. It was like
that's what I was noticing.
Compared to like Phil's interviews, like or anybody from Xbox's Sarah Bond's interviews, it's cut and dry. They have everything ready because their vision is clear, because they know exactly what their plan is. They know exactly where they're heading. They're forging forward through the snow, creating this new trail, but they've got a location in mind. And you could tell the difference between the two. So that's why I brought up your tweet, because that was interesting that you said that, Matt, because I agree with you. So Herman Holst did this interview this week, and I'm going to read from Axios, written by Stephen Totillo, of course. He is on Twitter a lot. Good follow if you want some gaming news and some other news. He writes, Sony PlayStation is diversifying the types of game it makes, but will not neglect its core strength of single-player narrative adventures, PlayStation Studios chief Herman Holst tells Axios. Why it matters. Winning gaming hardware generations by selling the most consoles is no longer enough for PlayStation. Wow. What a
newsflash, breaking news.
Ooh,
the industry is bigger than just consoles.
Jeez, man, I wish we would have known about this, Matt. We could have talked about it a long time ago. While it entered a new console cycle with the 2020 launch of PlayStation 5, Sony has also begun expanding into PC and mobile development. Crazy. What they're saying, quote, we have a history and a reputation for building these incredible narrative-driven single-player games, such as The Last of Us and Horizon and the upcoming God of War Ragnarok, Holst says, chatting via video conference from his office in Amsterdam. PlayStation Studios head is centrally located to orchestrate expansion efforts, coordinate work of some 4,000 developers across 19 studios from Japan to California. Quote, we're also diversifying now, and we have stood up 12 projects in total in the live ops multiplayer space. Live ops, or live service games, are usually multiplayer and designed for years of post-release content that can generate additional revenue. Live games such as Epic's Fortnite and EA's Apex Legends are among the industry's biggest hits, but Sony has scant success in this category. I can't think of a one. Most of Sony's live games haven't been announced yet and are deep in development. They'll come from newly acquired teams such as Haven Studios, partners such as Firewalk, and even Sony's internal teams that are best known for single-player games, Holst says. They won't all be original intellectual property, Holst says. Quote, we're not excluding bringing some of our beloved existing franchises into live games. Traditional PlayStation fans shouldn't fret. The blockbuster single-player narrative games Sony regularly wins awards for aren't going away. Many of Sony's top developers like making them and will continue to do so, the studio chief says. Quote, some of our biggest titles in the single-player narrative-driven spaces are also our most profitable titles. Some of our biggest titles in the single-player narrative-driven space are also our most profitable titles. Sony also courting PC and mobile markets. The latter is nearly double the console and global revenue, according to research firm Newzoo. On PC, it has released 4 former PlayStation 4 games to robust sales, with more coming. Sackboy's coming, everybody, just so you know. Mobile is going slower with no titles announced, but obvious ambition. Holst says Sony plans to build up its internal capability to make mobile games, will work with external partners, and refers to recently purchased Savage Game Studios as Sony's first acquisition for its mobile group. Sony may also still make games for the PlayStation 4, despite only having PlayStation 5 exclusive consoles announced beyond 2022. quote, "We certainly don't want to forget the millions of active players on PlayStation 4, and we want to ensure there are great games for them as well," Holst says. "We're evaluating it on a case-by-case basis." A lot of room for wiggle room in that. Sony's moves come as costs rise for creating blockbuster games. Most of the bigger teams have grown in recent years, Holst acknowledges. Bringing titles to PC for additional sales has helped. Quote, "It allows us to continue to invest and to invest even deeper into their projects," end quote. Scrutiny over how blockbuster games are made has intensified as well. Numerous investigative reports about the industry in recent years described overworked developers crunching long hours to an unhealthy degree, including flagship Sony studio Naughty Dog. Quote, "I want to look at our professionals as people that can have a balanced long-term careers with proper career progression," Holst says. Holst says his teams are trying to tackle the issue with nuance. He floated that an experienced art director might decide they want to work on a Saturday to polish something. Quote, "Am I going to say no? Well, it's a bit more complex because what if his entire team then feels obliged to also go in?" So what that means is that we need to have that conversation with the art director and say, that's about the game, but there's also your team, end quote. In July, a developer for Naughty Dog's a remake of the acclaimed Last of Us tweeted that the game was their first crunch-free experience in their career, praising changes at the studio. What's next? Holst teams have a dizzying set of priorities ahead of them, including delivering games for the early 2023 launch of PSVR 2. They've also got a formidable task to figure out live games and will benefit from the experience of a top studio in that sector, Bungie, which the company recently acquired. In March, Sony's live ops effort with the racing game Gran Turismo 7 hit a snag, that's putting it lightly, after it had to correct the unpopular update tied to the virtual car prices. Quote, "We've got to listen and learn to react quickly," Holst says of the experience. That's what we're learning. All right, Mav. Yo, so Holst, let's break down a couple of the big ones here, Mav.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for this. So let's start with the fact that they say that they're putting their PC games, not their first party games, or not their single player,
only
not their single player games.
Their
single player games, Holst confirms, will be a year or longer before they go to PC.
What was funny is wasn't he like rest assured?
Yes. Yeah. No. He's like we're gonna ease some fears or something like that.
Like who's like why?
Yeah,
like
the loud minority in this community.
Like
great,
great. That's so stupid. Like
the circus.
Hey, yeah, we know you don't like this because you're you.
Right.
But you know what I mean? I want you to feel special still. So we'll bring it out later. And also it makes sense to get people to rebuy the game again. Right. So and that way they don't have to answer questions over cross-buy in those situations as well. Right. So
sure, of course. But funny, Mav, you can go back to his interviews at the start of this generation.
Yeah.
And he said 2 years plus.
Yeah.
Now it's down to a year.
Yep.
Right. We're getting closer with the single player games. But he did confirm.
Next interview will be 6 months.
Right now, right now, he said it's a year or more before we bring our single player big blockbuster games to PC. Just to assure his fans, even though the moms and dads of the world buying their kids Spider-Man could care freaking less if it's on PC day one, and those outnumber the fans here on Twitter about 1,000 to 1. But whatever, Herman wanted to make sure that his hardcore knew, hey, you guys got a year of exclusivity you can brag about. Okay, so listen, year or more, but he did confirm, Matt, that the live service games will be coming to PC day and date.
Right.
And I know that's crazy. I know that's insane, Mav. Like nobody out here has been talking about this stuff happening, but it's crazy that these, whatever they've got 12 live service games prepared for the next 3-4 years are going to be coming to PC.
I'm curious if there'll be more live service games dropping than there will be single player games.
If you take away remasters and director's cuts,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, I never.
It seems like it, right? I mean,
it does when you've got first party and second and third party working on these live service games, right? And your teams are only so big, and now they're doing remasters. They're making multiplayers to go along with their games. Yeah, it's certainly possible.
So that would mean, if that happens, that would mean more games than not would be coming day and date to PC.
Yes, and he would only confirm. Well, let's put it this way, man. Easy math. He would only say that 25 projects are in the works.
Right.
So if you take 12 out of 25, that leaves 13. So it's 50-50.
How many of those projects are remakes?
Right. And if you take those out, that's what I'm saying. Then all of a sudden,
you're right.
You got more live service.
Yeah, like does Horizon Zero Dawn remake count as one of those? Right.
Right.
Probably. I mean, Last of Us Part 1 remake would have counted as one, right?
Yeah, it's a project.
It better be a project that they're charging $70 for. If they don't even count it as a project. Oh, it doesn't count. It's not big enough of a thing. We're not counting it as our project list. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a future of PlayStation where more games than not, at least in the near future, are going to be coming out day and date on PC. And then when the ones that aren't, they will acknowledge, just like they did with Last of Us Part 1 remake, that it's being developed for PC as well. Interesting.
Did this warrant an 8-hour Spaces? What do you think?
Because we've been saying this for a long time. Like, it just makes sense. I mean, PC platform has a huge multiplayer base. Also, they're willing to try these live service games. You get the whole streaming community in there as well. You're gonna approach another audience that maybe you've been missing out on, right? You look at, you remember when like Fall Guys came out, and it was like PC and PlayStation exclusive. It like exploded. You know what I mean? Now that's just like one example. Obviously these games are going for much bigger, but it created a trend, right? So it is big enough of a market there between those two to create a lot of hype behind a multiplayer franchise. So you do multiplayer across PC and PlayStation, make a cross play between the two. I'm interested if those are going to have some kind of cross-buy formula there, because remember there was rumors that they were working on a PlayStation launcher for PC as well, right? So that's one thing I would think that fans would ask for, right? Because it's kind of set a precedent by Xbox on that. Especially with something where you're progressing online like that, a character development, live service games, you level up, you do battle passes, you get all this customization things, you get all these things you unlock over time. And if you went over onto your other device and you didn't have access to that stuff, that kind of suck, right? So I'm interested in what that future is going to be.
And we had confirmation today, Mav, on that point,
right? That
one of the games is now going to have. They just updated one of their patch notes. God dang it, what game was it? But they talked about how you'll be able to log in to the Sony network, or you'll log into your Sony ID, and you'll receive some free skins for connecting your ID to the Steam, right? Connecting.
Okay.
So it's coming. It's coming. We did see that in some of the patch notes today. So that's coming. But yeah, Mav, I think, I mean, again, this is so funny talking about this stuff, because it's funny that we were talking about this. We had this whole group of people saying it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Never going to do it. They're never going to do this. They're never going to do that. But we've been talking about this so long that even having one of the Sony execs come out and talk about it is like, well, yeah, this is old news to us. Like, we knew this was happening. Like, this is obvious. Like, this is the way that you're going to do your business from here on out. So it's really strange talking about this like this is fresh, just because a Sony exec is confirming it. But it is big news. Again, causing 8-hour Spaces. So it obviously is big news to part of this community, so we got to talk about it. So games as service, day and date, single player experiences, year or more longer. Obviously, we all expect the 12 months, and they're going to have it out. 12, 13 months, they're going to have it out on PC. Once Nixxes gets up to speed, once Nixxes catches up on getting all the games ported, they're going to have Nixxes full-time, just working on each one of these single-player games coming out, making sure they're ready to go for PC port. I expect it almost as soon as the year's up to be on PC. It makes too much sense. Again, they need this revenue. This is business at the end of the day. Some people think that this is like PlayStation's out here just creating games because they love creating games so much, and they just love their fans, and they're just out here for shits and giggles. No, folks, this is business, okay? And they need the extra money. They're behind a lot in where this industry is going. They have a lot of positives, but they also have a lot of holes right now that they've got to fill, and those revenue streams are a big one. So yes, of course, this makes sense. Next point, Mav. Crazy as it sounds, but on a case by case basis, we may still see cross generational titles. Now, Holst in this interview, which was not in the Axios breakdown right there, Holst did confirm that Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are both slated to be PS5 only. So he did. We had questions about that. We were kind of wondering how they were going to handle that. Holst, to his credit, which I was kind of surprised he did that because they haven't talked about this at all. And this is really early.
Yep.
Well, Spider-Man 2 we expect to maybe hit next year. I still think it hits holiday next year, but Wolverine's down the road. But he did confirm those two titles will be PS5 only. But then he goes on to say, well, we're not going to ignore the millions of people still on PlayStation 4, and by a case-by-case basis, we will bring titles to them. This is one of the major flubs that started this generation. Of course, Jim Ryan, we believe in generations. One of the most famous quotes to ever come out of a gaming executive's mouth. We believe in generations was a big deal. They put on a lie. They put on a show for everybody. They got the media to write how Xbox was going to hold back this generation, Mav, because how dare they say they're going to support the last gen for 2 years? How dare they say that, Mav? Now, here we are, coming up at the end of 2 years. We already know, starting in 2023, there is not a single Xbox title announced or a first-party title that we know of next year that is going to be cross-gen. Am I correct? Or
not one that's been said
that we're
yet.
Aware of. That's been said.
Yeah.
Right. They've already started talking about streaming, that you're going to be able to stream Starfield and everything else from, obviously Xbox side of things to your old console. They've already got that in place. Mm-hmm. They've already started promoting that. We see the expansion of xCloud, all that good stuff. But on Sony's side, Mav, they started this whole generation with a complete lie.
Yeah.
Saying that, nope, we're cutting everybody off.
Issue.
That's the issue. So here we are at the end of 2022, or coming up to the end of 2022. We got Herman Holst, exec at PlayStation, out here saying, well, yeah, some of our big titles like Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are going to be PlayStation 5. But case-by-case basis, we are not going to ignore the millions of people on PlayStation 4. Mav, your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. Do I actually think that's necessarily holding back things? Not really, because I think they're only doing it because they can put the games there, right? I have made a tweet saying, remember when everybody said the Series S was going to be holding back next gen? Hashtag PS4, right? The reason I did that is because all the shit that Xbox got when they announced they were going to be supporting this generation for 1 to 2 years, which remember the whole we believe in generations thing, right? And that whole thing saying that, this is going to be the only place to get next gen games, really, is what Sony was saying. That was their mantra, right? Yes. The next generation starts with PlayStation. You remember that?
Of course. Same as the PlayStation 3 era when they said, we say when the generation starts.
That was their answer back to the media, to socials, selling the PS5, right? Obviously to the masses, after Phil Spencer's comment about 1 to 2 years of supporting the Xbox One generation, right? Media, journalists, PlayStation fanboys, or whoever, people were like, "What? You're not moving into next gen? All this stuff." So guess what? It worked. A lot of it worked. A lot of that messaging, this bullshit messaging, the bullshit propaganda almost style tactics that Sony's used in the past, came out in full force with this, and it's come out to be they've actually done the opposite of what Xbox is doing, and not the fact that they're supporting for 1 to 2 years, but beyond that, they're actually supporting last generation more than anybody. and for longer. So do I think it's actually holding anything back? Not necessarily, no. But do I think it's absolutely ludicrous for them to have marketed this in such way and lied to their fan base in a pure attempt to make Xbox look bad and to make them look good, selling on this false narrative that which is echoed throughout many dumbass PlayStation podcasts that just like to shit on Xbox, disingenuous creators out there that spew bullshit all the time to stoke up conversation and heat in the chat, right, to drive clicks. This was utilized a lot. In fact, even one person on Twitter was adding me for 2 days after the Series S was announced just because I said it wasn't going to hold anything back, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, PlayStation's still supporting the PS4 and some of their first-party games for the future. You just can't make this shit up. If I'm not thinking it's really necessarily holding anything back. I'm thinking that whatever games they can translate to the PS4, they're going to put there, right? And I don't think it's like a forced thing necessarily, but it's like, hey, if this can run on a PS4, let's just make a fucking shittier version of it and put it on the PS4. You do the 1080 30 or 1440 they just introduced on PlayStation. Sorry.
Yes.
4K 30 or whatever you got to do. Lower fidelity, all that stuff, and we'll sell the game to the 100 million people that still have PS4s, right?
Right.
Obviously, that's what they're doing. The PS4 was one of their most popular consoles ever. Remember how long they supported the PS2 generation?
Mm-hmm.
Man,
absolutely.
The PS2s were selling like crazy for a long time into the PS3 generation, right?
Yep.
I mean, they hit that magic was like $150 or even less.
Yep.
On the PS1s.
Yep.
Yeah, and PS2s, yeah, they were selling like
PS2s.
crazy. Yeah, they were selling like crazy, man. They're treating the PS4 a lot like that right now, and it again for a lot of reasons. It's the market and stuff like that, and I don't care. I don't care that they're doing that. But when you're marketing something in a way to make your competition look bad, and then you're doing more, going beyond what they did, that's just like shitty business. I don't know. It's just makes you look bad. And that's my only take on it. Really, it's like I don't get all the defenders of that kind of stuff, right? Because they pretty much lied to your face.
Correct.
Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. There's those games mostly are scalable, right? Like we've been saying from the start.
Yes.
The whole SSD thing was like bullshit from the beginning.
Correct.
Right? That was another sales ploy, right? Mm-hmm. Along with all the other stuff that they're doing to try and make it seem like this is why this is the only real next generation thing, right?
Yes.
All of that was complete and utter bullshit. Is it a good console? Yeah, it is a good console, right? They didn't need to sell all this bullshit to be able to sell a good console. But the marketing and lying and doing things opposite of what they said is getting them into trouble a little bit here. Also with all their other business tactics and stuff that they're doing. So
a lot of missteps.
A lot of anti-consumer type missteps, and a lot of things that people keep apologizing for, keep making excuses for because of premium. You got to pay for it, right out
of Apple's playbook.
Yeah, I get, that they have great games, right? And the very highly rated, respected games, franchises, and all this stuff. I like a lot of them, right? But I don't like Sony's business style at times when it comes to dealing with competition. Again, it's business, right? But when you're lying to your fan base and your audience to achieve that, that's where it gets a little fucked up.
Yeah.
So anyway, stop lying. Stop lying.
No, it was a calculated move. It wasn't even necessarily towards the fan base. It was towards the media because they knew what would be written. And that's happened for 6 months. We got article after article about Xbox and how they were supporting last gen for 2 years.
Yeah, which was a normal. Also, it's always happened.
Yes.
In every generation.
Yes, there's always a transition period. always a transition period. But that's exactly, it was cold, it was calculated, it is business. Again, there's no, everybody likes to create these imaginary rules on how business is supposed to be done, and we're going to talk
Yeah.
about this, with the acquisition talk next. But there is no imaginary rules that everybody has to play by, or certain people. You can do it all sorts of different ways, and we're seeing Xbox and we're seeing PlayStation do it in 2 different ways. But what they did at the beginning of this generation was classic playbook PlayStation stuff. It really was. We've seen it every generation to some degree. Every generation that Sony's been around since they started with the PlayStation 1 has included some cold, calculating moves on their part against the competition. It's always been that way. Again, don't fault them, because all's fair in love and war, and that includes business. So again, I don't fault them, but it looks bad, especially when it backfires because you don't actually hold up your end of the bargain, because you were just flat out lying in order to create a certain narrative to help you. Last generation, listen, with the whole this is how you trade games with your friends, beautiful, because it was real, because they had gone back to the drawing board after they saw the response to Xbox One, and they changed their entire presentation. They were going to do the exact same thing with the PlayStation 4 that the Xbox One was doing, minus the Kinect stuff, but they were going to do the same thing with DRM. And this is history, folks. It's a fact. They went through, they watched what happened to Xbox after they announced, and all the backlash to the DRM stuff, and they rewrote their entire presentation and then made up that little skit to show this is how you trade with your friends. That's beautiful, because they weren't lying. They took their DRM out and said, hey, now you can just trade games this way. It was great. That's good business. But again, it's part of their playbook. This time around, Jim Ryan decided to go a different route. He flat out lied to everybody to create a narrative, knowing in the back of his mind that he was going to still produce games that would be on both current gen and last gen. He knew it. There was no way they were going to give up 100 and some million people and not make games for it. So, yeah, I think that wraps it up. So again, Herman Holst, Matt, did you have anything else out of his interview that was interesting at all?
No, I mean,
No?
it's just stuff that we've been saying for forever.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
what I said.
a
It's
bit,
weird talking about it like this is new.
it makes smart business sense. Just expose more lies from the past, and it also concreted what our vision was for them in the future, right? And that we've been telling people for a long time. A lot of people were in disbelief because they're stuck in like 95 or something, and the way that console gaming should be, right? But yeah, exciting things in the future for PlayStation, regardless, right? I think. Yeah. So they're in this transitional period right now. It's kind of I'm not a big fan of a lot of things they're doing, but the future could still be bright.
Xbox is dragging them, kicking and screaming, Mav. Whether they like it or not, they're coming along. That's all there is to it.
They knew it. They knew it was gonna. They're always 5 to 7 years behind on the tech side of services, right?
Yep.
And that's where they're at right now, and they're playing catch up, and they're trying to figure out ways to, stay ahead of the game in their old ways while still transitioning to the new.
Correct. And like I said, it was a great observation on your part, because I felt exactly the same way by watching Holst. Again, for the first time, I did see some indecision. I saw a lack of confidence because their vision is not clear. They're in no man's land right now.
I think when they say, I think what you'll see is, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean you think? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you seemed really confident when you told us there was going to be no, we'd be living generations. That was really confident. You know what I mean?
Right. Correct.
Really confident, It's like they're confident in their lies and they're not confident in their truths.
Good way to put it. Absolutely. I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. Because again, that's what they've got right now. Because they don't have stable ground anymore. They're not, again, their throne is very shaky at this point.
Yeah.
They don't know how to handle it. So, and speaking of that throne, and speaking of their worried, what they're worried about and concerned about, and some people would say what their fears are as to what's happening. Let's move on to another big topic here, man. This popped off last night. Boom. had an epic show
Oh yeah,
last night.
it was amazing.
Man, he had like 9 people in at
Mhm.
one point, including King David. Rand was already a scheduled guest. King jumped in. He had his regular panel, with Mag and with Wandering Dutch, and everybody over there. It was an incredible show. I watched most of the show to get kind of everybody's thoughts on this news. This is a first step, and if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, the big news dropped last night that Brazil had okayed the Activision Blizzard King deal, the ABK deal, without any restrictions. And I think that's one of the biggest parts here. But they had announced this last night, late yesterday, and they had put out the full report. Now, I was unable to find the actual full report. I found everybody's breakdowns on Reset Era. And shout out to Reset Era. They get a lot of flack sometimes. There's some people breaking this stuff down pretty well over there.
I hope Law had, before we went live, had posted a video where he has the whole thing. Also,
Hope did?
Yeah.
See, I was waiting on that all day, but then I got busy.
Yeah, 30 minutes before we went live, he posted it. So
okay, dang, I'm gonna have to go watch that because obviously Hogue, mergers and acquisitions, he's been all over this. He's an attorney. He knows his stuff. I can't wait to see what his breakdown is. But what we're gonna focus on here tonight is the response to the deal from Brazil. And wow, man, wow. Like we talked about at the beginning of the show, if the CMA sounded like they were just copying Sony's notes, the CADE is what they're called. That's their government regulatory body in Brazil. Sounds like they've been listening to all of our shows and just taking notes on what we've been saying. And the majority of people who are taking a look at this deal from a neutral standpoint have been saying forever.
Shout out to Cade if you're watching right now. Appreciate
shout out to Cade.
guys.
Yeah, we appreciate your watching. Yeah, we appreciate your views for sure. This was the big part. Now, Brazil, let's put this into perspective here. Brazil is not the lead regulatory body that everybody looks to here.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
We've got to put this in. I know that it's a great moment because of how they worded it. We're going to get into the wording here because it is absolutely, again, common sense. Let's put it that way. They took a common sense approach to this whole entire deal and detailed everything and kind of shot down every single one of Sony's points and even some of the CMA's points, which again were just Sony's points. But Brazil is not the lead regulatory body here. Again, the FTC, the EU, and the CMA are going to be the big three. And most people believe the EU is going to be the toughest one. We'll see about that. We'll see where all this falls. We did get some other dates, which I'll end this topic on. We did get some more important dates kind of shouted out too as to what's coming up. But those are the big three. The Brazilian, let's be real. It's important. It's a first step. Saudi Arabia also has approved this deal, which
I think they did in August.
Yeah, they did. They did previously. Again, Saudi Arabia was expected to pass this deal because guess what? They have a vested interest in Activision Blizzard. So they're making money off this deal, folks. So yeah, Saudi Arabia was kind of in the bag per se. But Brazil, on the other hand, wasn't necessary. We thought it was, we thought they would side with it. But again, this doesn't mean the whole thing just is a breeze or a walk in the park. Microsoft has still got a lot of work ahead of them to do, but this was a good first start and a good first stepping stone. That's why it's exciting, along with what they had to say. So I'm going to read these important 5 or 6 different breakdowns of. I got kind of a full breakdown today, and there wasn't a whole lot missing. So I'm just going to read these 5 right here. So the conclusion. This is here we go. The conclusion. Number 1. Regarding the horizontal overlaps verified in the markets of game publishing, game distribution, online advertising, and licensing for merchandising products, the analysis carried out indicated that the operation would not be able to promote significant changes in their respective offer structures in any of the scenarios considered, either because the concentration generated was less than 20% or because the low variation of the HHI, which is one of their analytics that they use, pointed to the inexistence of a causal link between this AC acquisition, I believe that is, and the possibility of exercising marketing power according to parameters defined in resolution number 33 of April 14, 2022 from CADE. So again, what they're talking about there is publishing, game publishing, game distribution, online advertising, and licensing for merchandising products. Those 4 things they considered in part of the analysis and said this deal does not give Microsoft, Xbox the ability to close off any of those areas. Basic stuff. I mean, again, they're saying that even with this deal, they still are underneath a 20% share threshold of any of those 4 areas. With number 2, with regard to possible vertical effects, an attempt was made to assess whether, as a result of the transaction, Microsoft would have the ability or incentives to close any of the vertically related or complementary markets. Number 3, as for the possibility of closing the game publishing market upstream, it was found that despite Microsoft having control of a relevant portion of the console and digital game distribution markets downstream, the company would not have incentives to make it difficult for publishers competing with Activision Blizzard to access its platforms, as this would necessarily imply a reduction in quantity and variety of the catalog of games available in Xbox ecosystem, making the company's products and services less attractive to consumers. What they're saying there is, hey, does this deal mean that Xbox doesn't have to work with anybody else, that they're just going to close down their ecosystem, that they just dominate with what they've got? And they're saying absolutely not.
No.
That would be a detriment to Xbox and Microsoft if they decided, hey, now we got everything we need. We're not dealing with anybody. We got it all right here. That's not what's going to happen here, folks. Again, Activision Blizzard doesn't all of a sudden create this magic monopoly of gaming where all of a sudden Xbox can be like, yep, nope, we're closed for business. We're good. Thanks, everybody. Go home. Nope, that's not going to happen here. Number 4, with regard to the possibility of closing downstream markets, the analysis pointed out that despite their relevance and popularity, Activision Blizzard games, and in particular, the Call of Duty series, would not be essential assets to the performance of Microsoft's current and potential competitors in the console and digital game distribution markets, considering in the latter both digital stores and multiple game subscription services for PC and consoles. Thus, even if the Activision Blizzard game catalog were to become exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem after the transaction, SG Cade considers that such exclusivity would not result in a substantial reduction in the levels of competition in the downstream markets, even if it could translate into a competitive advantage for Microsoft. Again, common sense, this is how you compete. They aren't closing anybody down just because they were to make all of the Activision Blizzard exclusive. And they're not saying that's going to happen. I read some of the full thoughts on this, and Cade looked at it from the standpoint of if they did move to exclusivity. They acknowledged the public statements from Phil and from Brad Smith about how they're going to keep Call of Duty on everything. They want to bring it over to Nintendo. They acknowledged those comments, but they said there is nothing that holds Microsoft back from the future where they decide to make everything exclusive. So they looked at this deal from the worst case scenario when it comes to Sony's point of view and said, hey, what if Satya and Phil go back on their word and they just make all of this stuff exclusive, including Call of Duty? How would that affect the markets? And they found that no, while it would give them an advantage, well, that happens in business, it would give them an advantage, it still would not be anti-competitive. Okay? Number 5, furthermore, it is important to highlight the central objective of Cade's activities is the protection of competition as a means of promoting the well-being of Brazilian consumers. This is what every regulatory body should be doing. Unfortunately, that's not how the rest of the world works. There's politics involved. There's a whole lot of different agendas involved elsewhere in the world when it comes to the FTC, when it comes to the EU, when it comes to CMA. They're trying to change the definition of what they were created to do. Brazil, Cade, they're saying, no. We're looking at it strictly from a competition standpoint as it affects our consumers. And that's it. And not the defense of the particular interests of a specific competitors. Again, We are concerned about our consumers. That's our job. We care about our consumers. We don't care about protecting Sony and its throne in its number one place. That's not our job. Our job is not to do that for Sony. Our job is to worry about our people. That was fantastic. After all, one cannot lose sight of the fact that the holder of the legal assets protected by law number blah 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 and is the collectivity and not the competitor economic agent as an individual entity. In this sense, although it is recognized that part of the users of the PlayStation consoles from Sony could decide to migrate to Xbox in the event the Activision Blizzard games and especially Call of Duty become exclusive to the Microsoft ecosystem, SG and Cade does not believe that such a possibility represents in itself a risk to competition in the console market as a whole. Yes, so that's saying it all. If they were to make everything exclusive, Cade does not believe that stops competition, even if, hey, some of the consumers decide that Call of Duty, they got to get it, they got to move over to Xbox, and they leave PlayStation, still not enough to create any less competition in the console market. Not enough to do any damage to consumers in Brazil. That's what they're saying there. 6, finally, in relation to the existing complementary between the activities of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard in the game publishing markets, and especially in the mobile game segment and online advertising, it was found that the shares held by the parties in these segments in all scenarios examined are well below the minimum percentage considered for the purpose of presumption of the possibility of closing the markets as defined in Article 8.4 of Cade Resolution, blah, blah, blah. It is concluded, therefore, that the possible vertical litigations and complementaries that may be generated or reinforced by the transaction do not give rise to significant risks to the competition, since no elements were identified that allow inferring the closure of any of the vertically related markets. In view of the foregoing, it is concluded that the present merger is approved without restrictions. Mic drop.
Yep.
Now, what wasn't a part of that, they also got into Nintendo, which we've talked about, and said, hey, Nintendo's succeeding without any Activision Blizzard games. Nintendo's leading the market in many areas, and they don't even have a single Activision Blizzard game.
Yep.
All right, Mav, why don't you recap what you spoke about last night in your impromptu stream a little bit, your thoughts on this, brother?
For me,
you had a lot to say.
Yeah,
you were excited. And you slept on it. You worked another day. So anything changed, or you got the same thoughts here?
Same thoughts. Like, I mean, it's just, I think ultimately, right, there's still a long way to go in the other phase 2 scenarios that are going on right now, and so on. But looking at this, it is the common sense approach, right? It is the way it should be done, right? And I think, if anything from this, right, Microsoft can maybe use this as an example if they get kickback for any of these certain situations, right? Especially Call of Duty. Because we've talked about numerous times how asinine it is for one gaming franchise to be such a hurdle in a $70 billion deal, which affects so much more than that, and protecting a certain small segment of an audience from potentially having to get a different device in a big ass industry like gaming is not what their job is, right? That's not what they're for. And specifically, everybody's pointing to number 5, but again, number 4, it's the hardest for me because they're addressing specifically the number 1 challenge here in the entire thing, right? Like the only thing we've seen from the CMA and everything back has been Call of Duty this, Call of Duty that, PlayStation. Well, they might be pulling Call of Duty off, and then you see Jim Ryan complaining about Call of Duty and all this stuff. And PlayStation is the only challenger that has, because we saw the Brazilian documents before that were made public, thanks to their laws, right? And that was the only real challenge here was Call of Duty. So number 4 specifically spoke to me a lot because that's clearly addressed 100% at the one issue that is still pertaining to this massive deal. And it's such a small issue. And it's almost like a laugh in their face moment in this, right? Because it's like, that's not our job. That's what they're saying. It's not our job to protect you, Sony. Our job is to protect our consumers. And this may invite even more competition into the industry, which is in turn potentially even helping the consumers. And we don't see any way that this is going to cause significant change or any kind of closing of any of the markets within the industry. And you saying yourself now, like we said, is it's all one industry, right? So it's like, how can they be complaining about something that they're number one in? And you can just like pour into this, right? It's number 4 for me was the most important thing because again, even like with the CMA causing specifically this issue is what they raised, right? Brazil sees no issue with this. And that is with regard to the possibility of closing downstream markets, the analysis pointed out that despite the relevance and popularity, Activision Blizzard games and in particular, Call of Duty series would not be essential assets to the performance of Microsoft's current and potential competitors. They're not essential, they say. Call of Duty is not essential for your survival, PlayStation, and the industry's survival. Call of Duty is one game franchise. And all Activision Blizzard games are not essential for you to operate as a business and compete in the industry and for other people to be able to compete in the industry. Again, you said they pointed out Nintendo. They are competing in the industry and very well without any of those games. There's multiple avenues. PlayStation has one specific model they're using. This affects them more than anybody else because of their model that they're choosing to use right now. They have lots of different options to transition the way they do business and also the kind of games that they make and produce, which they already are. They've already went out and bought Bungie as well to help offset a move like this as damage to them, right? So they even go in to say, even if it's exclusive, even if Activision Blizzard games are exclusive, it's not going to damage the industry. No restrictions. No restrictions. The reason that one's so important to me is because that's the one challenge that keeps being raised over and over again publicly, while Sony and PlayStation are trying to raise a kind of public perception campaign against Microsoft, with taking away Call of Duty from their fan base, trying to gain favor with regulators in Europe and the UK and also here in the US with this wording. This is how it's supposed to, this is really the truth with what Brazil stated forward here on their approval statement. And there's really no, they don't have a leg to stand on. Like, they are lucky if they get a concession for Call of Duty for any period of time. Microsoft already offered that to them up front. Up front, Microsoft already offered to them a concession in which Brazil says they don't even have to do. They don't even have to do that. They're saying, hey, if you make it exclusive, that's just the industry. You know what? Like, PlayStation does it. Everybody does it. It's a key part of the industry. They actually said that in some of the other information out there. I want to get into some of this other stuff real quick too, Pong, because there was more that I saw. Yes. Everborn Saga post this last night. Yeah. And Calorie, shout out to him. He had DM'd me this today, and it's more things here. Investment in exclusive content is and always has been very important for the competitive dynamics in the console segment, which is the main thing that PlayStation's challenging here, right? Exclusive content was most likely one of the main factors responsible for positioning the PlayStation as a leader in the world console market for more than 2 decades, a leadership that continues to this day. Nintendo adopts a commercial strategy heavily based on exclusive brands and games for its consoles, as well as licensing these brands for the production of other consumer and entertainment products. On the other hand, Microsoft, which currently seems to be selling fewer consoles than its 2 competitors worldwide, as suggested by the estimates in this tables, they said, a Game Pass so as to make your products and services more attractive to consumers. I feel like I'm missing something with some of those things here. It kind of skips. Let me see Everborn's here. I know I shared it to you earlier today as well. Because it's juicy, man. Like, what do you take from? I think I have it here. Okay. Yeah, I have it right here. Okay. Has invested heavily in the acquisition of development. Okay, so Xbox has invested heavily in the acquisition of development studios and game publishers to strengthen the content of Xbox and Game Pass in order to make its products and services more attractive to consumers. That's what the sentence that was missing there. So it's like they're basically saying that, okay, Sony's number one in the console market for doing the same thing that Sony's trying to argue against, that Microsoft's not allowed to do, and Microsoft's acquiring content to strengthen their position in the market. Duh. It's like, yeah, it's pretty damn obvious, right? And we go on, and there's one more here. Shout out to Everborn for sharing this yesterday. If I can find it again. They keep going to the top of our DMs. Here we go. All right. Okay, so this SGK believes that the fact that Call of Duty is traditionally a series of cross-platform games has a significant influence on the number of users and sales performance of the franchise. After all, it is a logical inference that the greater the number of hardware platforms on which a particular game is playable, the greater the base of potential users and buyers of such a game. Given this context, it is likely that, at least in the short term, which they've already agreed to do in the short term, Call of Duty would lose a significant volume of revenues and players if their games were no longer offered to users of the most popular console in the world. In fact, such a hypothetical scenario can not only negatively impact the numbers of the franchise, but also favor other multiplayer games similar to Call of Duty that remained on PlayStation, such as competing series such as Battlefield and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Despite this, it cannot be ruled out that Microsoft will consider the adoption of an exclusivity strategy on Activision Blizzard games potentially profitable, even if a decision in this regard could result in sacrifice of a relevant part of sales, users, and even call of the popularity of Duty. I think that's a translation issue. And even the popularity of Call of Duty, which I've actually made that argument before as well, because when you make something tied to one platform, you can have potentially a loss of popularity overall within that over time. It's to be a long-term effect situation.
Street Fighter 5.
Yeah, Street Fighter. There you go. Good example, right? Yep. This is because, in theory, such a strategy could contribute to boost Xbox sales, expand the Game Pass subscriber base, and strengthen the network effects in the Microsoft ecosystem in order to compensate for any loss of revenue from the sale of games in the short term. So basically, they're saying, like, you know what, like, doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do it. If they do it, though, like, that's okay. Like, there's so much here, man, and it's directly related to directly related to Call of Duty, which has been the main hurdle with this deal, right? So
yeah, and they even went into the profits that Sony makes off of Call of Duty and said that even with the loss of profits, that it would not stop or hinder Sony from competing in this market. That yes, while it was a considerable sum, it would not affect Sony in a way that people have been trying to present, where it's going to collapse them or whatever the case may be. That they would still survive and they would still be able to compete. So they broke it down in all of it. And like I said, they brought Nintendo into it and said it doesn't have Activision Blizzard. So how are they surviving if this is so important? How are they still eking out an existence? And not only eking out an existence, but dominating. How are they doing that, Sony? Man, this goes back to when we started talking about this deal. And let me say, this is absolutely fascinating. I know not everybody's into the business side and the dealings and the chess moves. But for those of us that are in this industry like we are, that read about it daily, that keep up on it, and that like that side, this is absolutely fascinating, because this is the stuff that us as regular gamers never get to see, folks. This deal is on such a level that it is opening up Pandora's box, and we're getting the behind the scenes look at so much that we've all been curious about, or a lot of us has been curious about for a long time. We're going to see the inner workings of what happens here. But this goes back to everything that I've talked about on so many different shows now since this whole thing went down, is what you're seeing here with the Brazilian. And yes, Brazil might have a different outlook because, again, they're using the common sense form of their position that, hey, we're here for the consumers. That's what we're protecting. We're not protecting Sony. We're not looking at this any other way other than are our Brazilian consumers going to be negatively impacted by this deal? So they're using the common sense. But what you're seeing here, man, and I talked about this, is the education that Microsoft and Xbox is, that's what they got. That's what their job is when it goes to these deeper phases, phase 2, whatever you want to call it. When they get to those phases, this is when Microsoft gets to come in and gets to shut down all the nonsense that Jim Ryan and Sony have been trying to put out there, cold and calculated, just like they always are. That's when Microsoft and Xbox gets to pull out all the receipts, and they have all the receipts, folks, all of them. They know where all the dead bodies are buried on Sony. They do. They know. See, again, this is a game that I said was dangerous for Jim. I understood why he was doing it. But like I said from the beginning, man, his hyper-focus, Sony's hyper-focus on Call of Duty could really come back to bite them in the ass when it came down to Microsoft walking into those rooms and they're pulling out all the receipts and they're showing everybody the real numbers that none of us get to see out here in the public. They're pulling out these real numbers. Cade also talked about how they got numbers from Nintendo, how they got numbers from Ubisoft, how they got numbers from Sony. They're getting to see all the real, all the stuff that we speculate about. And when those numbers start getting shown, and when people start talking, and when Microsoft and Xbox pulls out the receipts and says, yeah, well, this is how the industry's been running. Sony for 2 decades now has been dominating because of the dealings that they do, because of their exclusivity, because of this, that, and the other. We're not dominating. We haven't been dominating since we started. We've been trying to play catch up this entire time. That's all we're trying to do here. And we have a right to do that as a business. So this hyper focus on Call of Duty, Mav, and you see it in the writings as they continuously go back to Call of Duty because Sony decided to make it about Call of Duty and only Call of Duty. Like I said, the one, it might be the biggest shiny diamond in some people's eyes that everybody looks at. Meanwhile, Xbox is carrying home a treasure trove of diamonds that nobody's even talking about in your World of Warcrafts and your potential IPs like StarCraft and all in Diablo 4. All of this stuff that they're carrying home. This hyper focus on Call of Duty right here in Brazil came back to bite Jim in the ass because when they got to see the real stuff, when they got to see the real numbers and started breaking it down, and when Xbox was saying, yeah, this is how the businesses work, this is how the industry runs, and they got to go talk to Ubisoft and go talk to all these other people, and all of them are going, yeah, Xbox ain't lying. This is how the business works. This is how it's been going on for decades now. They turn around and look at Jim and go, are you fucking kidding me right now, Jim? What the hell? You're complaining about Call of Duty right now? Really? Look at your numbers. Look at your domination. Why are you scared? You guys can compete. You guys have all this IP that you're not doing anything with. You guys have dominated for generations. Why are you sitting here complaining about Call of Duty? You don't need Call of Duty. And right now, Xbox is saying all the right things. They're saying, hey, we're going to extend the deal. We're going to put it in more places. And Cade even said, well, Microsoft, by the way, yeah, you can say it out in public, and we appreciate you said that out in public, but yeah, we know how business works too, and we don't really trust you. So we're going to look at this deal from a standpoint as if you are going to make everything exclusive.
Right.
And then they turned around and said, okay, well, let's run these. Yeah, Jim, even if they make everything exclusive, you got nothing to worry about. You might not be number 1 anymore. You might be number 3 or maybe even number 4 or 5, but you're still going to be around. What are you complaining about? Go compete. Go do something, Jim. You got plenty of ability. You got a huge fan base that loves you. You've been dominating with 140, 150 million consoles sold for generations now. Every generation you beat these guys. Activision Blizzard isn't going to change that overnight. So yeah, you might have to go do some business differently, Jim. But that is business. There's no unwritten rule that says that you get to be number 1 just because you've been number 1 for a long time. It doesn't work that way in any industry. And I think that's exactly what happened here. And you could hear it in the writings again, from common sense. And that's what we've always done, Mav. When we look at things, even when we speculate, and people say we can go out on a limb on some things, or we've guessed on some things, or tried to analyze some things. Even when we do that, we try to keep it as common sense as possible. What's the most realistic outcome here? And that's exactly what the Brazilian regulatory body did. That's what CADE did. Is they said, realistically, all of this went to worst case scenario for Sony and for the rest of the industry. Microsoft just pulls Activision Blizzard in and says, nobody gets anything. It's all on our ecosystem. What the hell would happen to this video game industry? And they're like, not a whole hell of a lot. Microsoft might have an advantage. Some more people might go buy into the Xbox ecosystem, but it's not going to shut everybody down. Nintendo ain't packing up shop and going home and saying, well, we tried. Mario and Zelda just weren't enough, but now that Xbox has Call of Duty, it's over with, folks. We're going home. No, Sony's not going to do that either. Sony has way too much IP to ever think that they're just going to fall apart and fail. And we've said that from the beginning, man.
Yep.
Never was Xbox. Phil is not out to kill Sony. He may be out to take the number one spot, of course, as you should. That's what Satya wants. Satya wants all that business on the Azure servers. He wants all the games on the Azure servers. They want Game Pass everywhere, including PlayStation, if allowed. So they might use that chess piece in Call of Duty to make some deals, to try to force some things, to be a little bullish. They're allowed to. That's business. They got big bank. They can make this deal. Just because Sony doesn't, Brazilian government saying, yeah, too bad, so sad. It's not going to hurt our consumers. Our consumers are going to have choice at the end of the day, just like they always have had. If they want to play Call of Duty and they decide to move to Xbox, that's a consumer choice. They can do that. And Xbox is not controlling any one market here. They're not dominating any one market. And all their findings, if you read through a lot of the findings, everything is under 20%. And in fact, when they looked over at Sony's stuff, Sony was dominating markets at 50, 60% in some areas that they were analyzing. And they said, okay, so you've got the majority and you're still complaining here. Activision Blizzard isn't going to change that enough to all of a sudden where Xbox has wiped you off the face of the planet just because you got Call of Duty. That ain't going to happen. This is the education that Microsoft and Xbox is going to give to the rest of the regulatory bodies. The rest of the regulatory bodies, the FTC, EU, and CMA, are not going to be walks in the park. Okay, they're not. Microsoft was ready for this. That's why when they first announced this deal, they said June next year. A lot of us were hoping for this year. I was on that train. If everybody acted like Brazil and was using common sense and was only looking out for their gamers, I think it could have been done this year, easy. But that's not what's happening. So they're going to have some different tactics they're going to have to use elsewhere. But that's what Microsoft is experienced in. Again, this is not their first rodeo worldwide, folks. This might be the biggest deal in Microsoft history. But this isn't their first rodeo. They've gone through these regulatory bodies on all sorts of different software-related things as well through the decades. They've got their own law firm in-house. Go look up their own law firm. Microsoft has, you can find their law firm. It's like over 100 different attorneys on staff. They know what they're doing over there. So the rest of the regulatory bodies are going to be different beasts. They're going to be different battles. Each one is taking a little bit different of approach. I think the FTC is going to give a no decision at the end of the day. I think they're just going to let it go through. They might not even rule on it one way or the other. Again, they don't really, for people who don't understand, they just either say, yes, it's fine, or no, we're suing you to stop the deal. That's what they do. I think, but they can make a no decision. They can stay silent, let the time run out, and then let Xbox and Microsoft do the deal. And I think that's what probably winds up happening at the end of the day, because there's a lot of other things coming involved. There's elections coming up and all sorts of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of different what ifs out there. But this EU and the CMA, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. And those are probably the two are the tougher ones. But Microsoft at the end of the day is going to use this, Mav, like you said. They're going to use this and say, you guys are set up to protect your consumers. Now, you're coming at us from all these different directions. That's fine. But at the end of the day, this is about the consumer. And even if you want to take these other avenues and try to attack us with them, really, what are you doing? Are you protecting Sony's number one spot? Because if you are, then you're in the wrong, and that's not right. Now let's look at the same numbers that the Brazilian government looked at here, and then factor in whatever else you guys are looking at. And let's go through it piece by piece. And we're going to show you exactly how this industry works, because obviously you.
Uh-oh. We'll see if Pong comes back here, because he was on a roll. Pong soul is froze. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fun Speculation. Welcome to PM in the PM. We'll wait and see if Pong gets back in here. We'll hang out for a little bit. And I want to say hey to everybody in the chat in the meanwhile until he gets back. Sup, Spooky. Oh, Spooky asked a question. I know Pong was on a roll, man. Like none other. He'll get back in here. He's been botting off and on a little bit. Sony got him. You think Jim got him? Maybe so. Uh-oh. Yeah, he'll be back. But in the meantime, Pong melted his camera. Yeah, Spooky's got a question. Spooky says, what happens if everyone approves the deal except for the EU and the CMA? I think at that point, then Microsoft could use like some bully tactics a little bit and say, we'll pull our products from your markets or whatever. I don't think they're going to do that, but they could decide to just do business anyway and maybe get sued and see what happens there. I don't think you could potentially have legal battles. You could potentially end up having the companies split up a little bit to get around the jurisdiction issues and stuff or whatever in those countries and stuff. But none of that they want to deal with because it's really expensive and time consuming. And a legal battle going with either of them could take years. So that's something you really won't have to deal with. So I think they're going to try and do everything they can to avoid that. Court would be a worst case scenario issue for them, I think. I don't think there's any way they're going to let the deal not go through. I think it's just something that they don't want to deal with, right? I think they'd be more likely to willing to accept a concession on Call of Duty for a certain amount of years or something than have to like deal with a long potential year court battle or whatever. And I don't think there's a world in which this deal doesn't go through in all the markets because of the way that it's presented. And Brazil made all the right points there. Obviously breaking down every little aspect of the deal and especially the mainly attacking the main challenges of the deal, which was targeted a lot with Call of Duty. So Call of Duty is not going to kill the industry if it goes exclusive to any one company. But Microsoft is still probably going to bringing that out to PlayStation for a number of years anyway. So the whole argument is just nonsense and BS, and it's just about protecting Sony's bottom line. And that's not what any of these regulatory bodies are all about. They're not supposed to be about that. They're not supposed to be about protecting a company's bottom line. They're supposed to be about protecting competition instead of a competitor, which is why everybody loves that line number 5. Pong said, let me see what he just said. He said internet outage. He's trying to see if it'll come back. So Pong's internet is gone, everybody, right now. We'll give it a few minutes and see if he comes back. He was on a roll, man. That sucks. Mid roll like that, you lose the internet connection. That sucks. But yeah, I think that's what would happen, Spooky. I think they would either look at the options and be like, okay, either we go to court or we like just do it anyway and see if they will take them to court and they'll just battle it out. I don't know if that's possible. Or they would have to potentially change structure of the deal a little bit to maybe have ABK like separate in those territories or something. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but that would be annoying and to deal with in any way, in any of those situations. Any other questions in the chat while we wait on Pong to get back? AB says Jim Ryan pulled the plug. Microsoft did say they want to bring COD to the Switch. You're right, Ray. Yeah, no problem, Spooky. Let's see. Yeah, RSJ said I don't see how COD is that big a deal to the countries across the pond. Like it's not. It's just that they're being more of like listening to the challenge and using it as an excuse for phase two. It's not like Call of Duty is just one avenue, one thing in this deal. And obviously it's a big part because it's the biggest game franchise within this, and it affects some of the Microsoft's console competitors the most. But outside of that, like mobile gaming aspect of that, it doesn't affect PlayStation at all right now. It doesn't affect hardly anything except for Sony's bottom line on making money off of potential Call of Duty deals and the name recognition that Call of Duty brings to PlayStation. Focus Active says regulation is established to protect the game, not choose winners. Yeah, absolutely. Like trying to maintain the status quo of who's in lead is not the job of the regulators, right? Frizzle has a question. What do you think will be the first console bundle Xbox releases? Oh, after the Call of Duty deal's done? Ooh, that's a good question. Oh, after the ABK deal's done. That is a fantastic question. Okay, so ABK deal closes. I think it depends on when it closes, right? Because when is Diablo 4 coming out, right? Diablo 4, I believe, is slated for March right now. I could be wrong on that, but it's supposed to be coming out next year. Let's say it gets pushed back in the middle of the year, late next year. Maybe it's even summer. I don't know. But if the deal's done in time for them to be able to get out like packaging or some kind of branding for a Diablo 4 bundle, I would think that would be the first one. Other option is you could do a marketing with Overwatch. It's a very popular IP. Call of Duty Warzone, or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You could still even have that. There's rumors of a big, huge content drop for second year for that. Lots of different options. Jigga J says Jim Ryan tried to shit on Phil Spencer's pillow and it's backfiring. Yeah. That's a good question. What do you guys think? Call of Duty or Overwatch, Diablo? It'll be a big game franchise. A big game franchise for sure. And I think it'll do wonders. Call of Duty would make obviously the most sense, except for that's release. There's not gonna be another new Call of Duty for 2 years after this one, except for like constant Warzone stuff. But you can release a special Call of Duty thing at any time, and it'll still be popular, right? Atala says Gears. Yeah, I'm trying to focus it on the Activision Blizzard games, right? Gears would be like Gears 6, or if there's a Gears Phoenix collection, that would make sense for Gears, right? But yeah, what do you guys think? What was your response to Brazil? And do y'all think that Brazil nailed it on the head? And is this going to strengthen their case with the FTC and the CMA and the EU? Because that's the main 3 hurdles right there, right? Jasper just says just bundle Game Pass and you get all the games. So I'm talking about like, when I think of that, Jasper, I agree, but I'm thinking of like marketing on the box, right? Like the marketing on the box of a specific game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that's helps a lot with the recognition, and you can promote it, get this for free, right? Now, obviously, Game Pass has a huge name and you can promote that within Game Pass, but if you have like a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 logo, or if you have like a Diablo logo or something like that on the box, and maybe even have a special edition console, it's going to drive a lot. It's going to drive a lot of interest. Frizzle says the Brazil statement calling out Sony was delicious. Yeah, it was delicious. Vic says a Candy Crush Xbox Series S. That would be amazing. Remember recently there was like Candy Crush started showing up in the storefronts in the My Games and Apps section on the Xbox app. If you were to look on your Xbox app on your phone and the My Games and Apps, it would show Candy Crush there. That was like randomly. People started putting it out on Twitter, and my wife checked it on her phone. She saw it there as well. I don't know if it's still there or not right now, but that was very interesting that was happening, right? Psycho says Brazil just set the bar for the other regulators. I think Life Supremacy said it should strengthen Microsoft's case. I think it does strengthen the their position a little bit because they have another regulatory body that they have these answers from that they can point to and be like, look at these lines, look at all the language here. This is the way you should be looking at it too. I understand you have some different things you're trying to look at here, but like let's break this down. This is what Pong was saying. Let's break it down and let me show you why this is what makes sense, not protecting Sony, right? Not protecting a few consumers from having to get an Xbox instead of a PlayStation potentially one day in the future, which is why they're trying to kibosh a whole $70 billion deal from that scenario, which is just utterly ridiculous, right? I think Candy Crush will end up playable on Xbox too, live. I think so. I wouldn't be sad about it. I played a shit ton of Candy Crush in my day. Spooky says the EU and CMA seem like big fans of Sony from the way they're looking at things. I think that was just I don't think they're big fans of Sony or anything. Here's where I come at from that perspective. I feel like they were always going to go to phase 2 no matter what, because they're the major players with these things, and they're trying to make themselves have some self-worth. And I feel like the only challenge that was presented to them was from Sony involving Call of Duty. So when they're moving to phase 2, they got to grasp onto something as an excuse. They got to grasp on something to say why we're moving to phase 2. And the only ammunition they had in this entire argument from all the people they've put out questions to, all the publishers, all the big players in the gaming industry, the only challenges they got back was from Sony regarding Call of Duty. So when they announced that they are moving to phase 2, it's going to sound like a mouthpiece for Sony, right? And it's weak. It's a weak argument, right? And I feel like because they use that, because that was their excuse for to go to phase 2, they're going to try and do something with that, right? Like to make themselves get a win in some way. And I think it's going to be potentially with some kind of consent or restriction or something that they're going to potentially force Microsoft into, or like try and make some change to make themselves worthy of existence, right? When you're a regulatory body or you're any organization and your job is to oversee something, and you have the biggest deal put forth in front of you, or oversight something, and you have the biggest deal ever put in front of you from one of the biggest tech companies in the world, this is the biggest deal Microsoft's ever made, right? So when you have the biggest deal at Microsoft, one of the biggest players in the world in business, in front of you, drops down a deal, and your job is to look at this, pick it apart, and make sure it's okay. As a regulatory body, if you're not doing that and going through it and trying to find something, they don't feel like they're doing their job. They don't feel like they're worthy of existing, right? So they're trying to prove their worth by finding something here to use to get some kind of concession, I think, and to get themselves a win to make it look like they've done their job, right? That's honestly the way I look at it, and I think the only challenge presented forth was from Sony regarding Call of Duty, and so that's why that's so forward-facing right now. There's nobody else that really even cares. Yeah, so they're grasping at straws, so to speak. Yeah, 100%. I think that when I saw the CMA's response, a lot of people were like, oh, this is gonna be interesting now. You know, for me, I was like, I got more confident the deal was gonna pass because that was the weakest argument you could possibly make. Call of Duty restricting the $70 billion deal, one game franchise, potentially leading PlayStation in the future, causing this whole thing to fall apart. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Like, and that's what their only argument was. So when that read like that, I was like, oh, this is done. It's going to get done. It's just going to come down to Call of Duty and whatever kind of consent they try and get Microsoft to sign, and how long that process goes on, and from there. And I feel like Microsoft might not even end up signing one. Maybe it's going to be presented with them, and they're going to balk at it, and it's going to go back and forth, and eventually that they're going to give up, or Microsoft's like, okay, it's okay enough to sign, right? Who knows, right? They already had offered PlayStation 3 years beyond the existing Call of Duty deal that they already have. So you're talking about PlayStation would have had Call of Duty for 6 years at least, probably going forward. You know, because I think the deal covers the next 2 games, which is Modern Warfare 2, and then there's another one 2 years away, and so then you can think about another 3 years beyond that. So I guess 5 years would be like around the minimum, right? I don't foresee that like being a problem. You know what I mean? I think Microsoft will probably release Call of Duty on PlayStation longer than that. I mean, it's a huge audience on PlayStation for Call of Duty. They'll make their $70 over there, and people on Xbox will get it in Game Pass. Lee says, I think Microsoft has been playing long games since the beginning of the Xbox One generation, built up Game Pass while deliberately maintaining 4th and 5th place. Maybe so. You know, they've been investing a lot. Right now, their numbers aren't as good right now because of the lack of first-party games this past year. And like many have said, maybe it's a good year for them to be looking at numbers if you're a regulator, right? Psycho says, I think the DOJ and EU will follow suit as Brazil's judgment. CMA will have some restrictions, you feel? Spooky says they may treat COD like Minecraft possibly and just keep it everywhere. Yeah, possibly. Who knows? And what Brazil's saying is like, whatever you do should be okay because that's what happens in the gaming industry. And there's competition in the gaming industry, and that just promotes more competition. So if you decide to make it exclusive, okay. If you decide not to, okay. And they're not going to try to put any restriction or consent thing on that. So Jigga J says more regulators approve the deal. Jim Ryan will be screaming, "Stop the count!" Oh my gosh, right on. Dion says I predict the deal will be done by next year, with everybody saying yes. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing those come through like one at a time, right? Will we have more exciting moments like this? Yeah, Pong's internet's dead. Sorry, Pong. Man, you were on a roll, brother. Pong Soul was on a roll. Absolutely was. Yeah. And, maybe what we'll do is I'll cover a couple of like, I feel like we've been talking about that for a while. Obviously, it's big news. You know what I mean? And there's going to be more opportunities to talk about it tomorrow night, too. Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So we always have that. But also, there's lots of little things that we can just kind of go over a little bit if y'all want to dive into it. Because we've beat this to death a little bit already. But let's see here. What did Pong sent me like a million things, guys. We were prepared to go for 5 hours if we had to tonight. Hey, look at this. Yeah, so Modern Warfare 2 Premium DLC planned for year 2. That's from Insider Gaming. So remember we just talked about that. Get him on the phone and speaker. You want me to call him? We'll see. Hey, it says sources Modern Warfare 2 Premium DLC planned for year 2. Maybe that's like maybe it's like a campaign DLC. Would y'all be interested in a big like campaign DLC for Call of Duty? Has that ever happened before? And what does premium DLC mean? This says Modern Warfare 2 is set to have paid premium DLC packs throughout 2023 and 24 to make up for a lack of mainline title. You call cap on that 5 hour. All right, so let's see. It says, according to Hope, Infinity Ward will also, I don't know who Hope is. I will also be releasing a greatest hits map pack with classic maps from every Call of Duty developer. Wow. Insider Gaming has been able to independently verify that the plan will be for Infinity Ward to release premium DLC in its year 2 offering. It's understood that the premium DLC offering is a way for Activision to maintain its premium sales through 2023 and the first half of 2024. Unfortunately, Insider Gaming was unable to verify the exact contents of the planned DLC, but remastered maps are its foundation. Okay, so it's not any single player stuff. It's remastered maps. Would y'all buy remastered map packs? Remastered maps as map packs on Call of Duty? I don't know. It could be cool. Could be cool. I'm not like, I think map packs are kind of a thing in the past for me. You know? Like, I don't really like that because it kind of separates the playlist and the matchmaking. I like the model where they've done like free maps and you just do the customization and stuff like that. It'll be in Game Pass, Jigga J says. You know what? Dude, you may be onto something. What if like one of the perks of Game Pass Ultimate is to get like the map packs and stuff for free in Call of Duty, right? They can offer so many different incentives there, or they could just sell them. I'm really curious. What's up, Ellis? Ellis Murderman Foster, how's it going? Yeah, that's interesting. Dead Space also, guys, got a new look. I've seen mixed results of that. Some people like it, some people don't. Dead Space looks like it's on track though for release, and a lot of people are hyped about it. What do y'all think is going to sell more, Callisto Protocol or the Dead Space remake? Jasper says it depends on how many maps they need to go, but not 4 maps, but remaster all maps from COD 4. Oh, that would be cool if you had like a Call of Duty 4 map expansion. Okay, like Modern Warfare 2 maps expansion, Black Ops maps expansion. I get that. That'd be cool. Yeah. So Callisto Protocol or Dead Space, guys? What's gonna sell more? Jigga J says you thought Dead Space looked awesome. Dead Space. You guys think Dead Space? I'm seeing Apollo says Callisto Protocol might sell more. The Deep Space Protocol, a Callisto Protocol. Okay, it's like Protocol. That's another Activision game. People are either loving or hating the Dead Space remake prices. Is it 70? Is a Dead Space remake 70? Frizzle says Dead Space he thinks will sell more. Apollo says Callisto looks more worth the price. Are we going to have a day and age now where we have the Callisto Protocol versus Dead Space wars? Callisto's a new IP, not sure how well it will do. It's got a lot of hype. $70 for another remake. That's fantastic. You gotta love that. Yay. In other news, I'm going through these DMs that Pong had sent me. Pete Hines has been promoted to head of global publishing at Bethesda. Leaving just the marketing role, he is now head of global publishing for Bethesda. And not only that, but his place will be taken over by what's the name? Aaron Losey. So Pete Hines already getting a big promotion since Bethesda's ZeniMax has been acquired from Microsoft. So he's going to be have a lot more responsibility. Pete Hines is a guy that's been involved for a long time in the industry and done great things there. So that's absolutely, I think, a good thing and a good move from them. The only thing is, like, it separates him a little bit away from the marketing side, which he was really, really good at. But we'll see how Aaron Losey does. I think she could be great too. Psycho says Callisto Protocol is what Dead Space should have been. I think a lot of people are saying that, bro. I think a lot of people are saying that. Like, Callisto Protocol is like a vision created from the original creators of Dead Space, going all out and making with what it seems like is their dream game, while like Dead Space is recreating a masterpiece to a lot of people, right? So you got like this nostalgia aspect versus you got this like original creator's new vision aspect. It's very interesting to have both of those all within a short time span of each other, right? So I'm curious. I'm really interested to see what does better. Personally, neither of them are like, I'm not crazy excited for either of them because I just never really get into Dead Space to begin with. Cheo says Aaron has been a big part of the marketing too. Yeah, so she's taken over the main aspects of that role. So that's why I said I think she'll be great at that as well. Frizzle says depends on how well Callisto's marketed. That one's this year. It's coming out in December. So you think Todd Howard should get a bigger promotion at Xbox? Maybe. What if you put Todd Howard in charge of I don't know. You just put him in charge of, let's say you gave him like Matt Booty's role and like you move Matt Booty over to like ABK, right? I wouldn't necessarily mind that. Although I would still want Todd Howard hands on with the big RPGs that he makes, like the Elder Scrolls 6, Starfield, the new whenever they make a new Fallout way down the line. Like I want Todd Howard to be involved directly with those games, which he is. Heavily involved there. If you're just joining us, Pong Souls Internet shit the bed. So we're here just hanging out, going over a few different topics before we head out. Here's one interesting thing. You remember we've talked about this a few times, guys, but you know what happened with Babylon's Fall and Platinum Games, the PlayStation exclusive, $70, Square Enix published. They recently said that, hey, they're going to be not they're basically taking away access for people to play the game. So the game came out less than a year ago, and this November, I think the servers shut down for good, and you won't be able to play it anymore even if you bought the game. Like just removing access, right? So this was a Platinum Games and Square Enix Games collaboration, and also Square Enix published game on this, and they made it PlayStation exclusive, like Square Enix does. This was supposed to be a live service game, shut down only a year after, and they charged people $70. No refunds, nothing like that. What's interesting is a Platinum Games CEO kind of came out and made some comments about it. He couldn't make some comments before, but it seems like he's kind of hinting that Square Enix is not easy to work with. He's hinting that Square Enix is the main reason that the servers are getting shut down, and that they've learned a lot from this lesson. But they will still be making live service games in the future. Yikes. Square's looking worse and worse. Actually, at this point, I kind of want Square Enix to get acquired by somebody, because they do some really shitty stuff. You know what I mean? All right, let's see here. What else we got? Did anybody here buy Babylon's Fall? I don't recommend you buy it now. if you were thinking on it or on the fence, which I almost bought that game because I kind of like those style of games, do not buy it now, because you will not have access to it soon. I think they removed it off the storefronts. They would have had to have removed it off the storefronts, right? I mean, I think GameStop was even giving away free copies of the physical edition. Yeah, Psycho says physical and digital copies won't be playable. Perfect example of how gamers don't own the rights to games physically. Yeah, it has to be online, I think, for you to play that game. What are the odds that someone bought that crap? Well, I think it sold in the thousands at least. They're giving it away to use as coasters. Yeah, it's crazy, guys. And I kind of found it interesting that Platinum was throwing shade. Now, Platinum is definitely at fault here too. But throwing shade a little bit at Square for this game. So yeah, I definitely would like Square to evaluate themselves, right? Out of these 100 folks, the realist, yeah. What are the odds that somebody bought it? Probably not very likely. We were talking about Callisto Protocol and Dead Space a little bit ago. Here's some information on Callisto Protocol that Pong shared with me. It says the Callisto Protocol game length to be around 12 to 14 hours. And there's beta pass that will add replay value. Alternative pass will add replay value, and we don't tell you where they are or how many they are. But if you really explore, it may be longer. So it seems like there's like branching paths that you can kind of just like explore and find. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's trying to come back, Psycho. I'm trying to kill time. I'm trying to burn time to get Pong back in here. We'll see. So What are we talking about? We're talking about Callisto Protocol. 12 to 14 hours. Is that long enough? Is that good? Shane says yes. But it's also got replayability with these branching paths. How long did it take to beat Dead Space 1? Anybody know? Like, who beat Dead Space and how many hours is it? What's the bigger game? Yeah, the realist for $70. Apollo says that's perfect. I don't mind the length. I think it's a good length because a lot of these games are way too big for me lately. Like, it's like, holy shit, I can't find time to beat them. It took you about 10-ish hours. 14 hours is good. 40 hours for God of War seems too long. Jasper says Dead Space is about 10 hours. I wonder if there's any extra levels to the remake of Dead Space, or is it going to be a true recreation? Is it going to be 10 hours also? Because for the $70 of Callisto, you can get 12 to 14. And branching replayable paths, you know? It's also a little bit even more gory, it seems. A little more over the top. Jigga J says, I think Dead Space took him 12 hours. You guess that's why the devs didn't want it on Game Pass, one and done? Yeah. Dead Space has voice acting with the main character now. Interesting. Cool. Let's see. What else did Pong sent me? I'm running through all the little smaller topics here just to get them out of the way in case Pong comes back so we don't have to cover them later. Dead Space new features. Here we go. Here's some new stuff in Dead Space. A new 360 0G, new pass, Necromorphs. I don't know what new 360 0G means. New, and it has in parentheses new paths. So Necromorphs have skin, flesh, bone layers. Fully interconnected Ishimura, no camera cuts. Oh, that's right. It's like one big open ship now. So like you're not transitioning level to level to level. Expanded story. Okay, so it is expanding the story via lore from Dead Space 2 and 3 in media, it says. Intensity director says dynamic enemy spawns and environmental effects. Okay, so Dead Space seems like it's more than just a remake. It's like a real remake. You know what I mean? Apollo says multiplayer for Callisto would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, Psycho, you want to hop in here real quick? Oh, we'll get you in here. Let me send you a link. Bear with me. I gotta copy it. We get the mellow fellow. I put it in the Fun Spec fam. We'll see who all crashes the show. We'll see who all crashes the show. We have Xbox Ultimate tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if Pong isn't able to get back in, then we'll be able to get back then. But I think it's his internet. I think his internet's gone, guys. I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna get back. No crashing. You'd say Dead Space is closer to a reimagining, like a reboot, right? Shane's hyped for both games. Never played Dead Space, so we'll buy it day one. Get Callisto on a sale. Okay. Pong says he is troubleshooting with Spectrum. I'm so sorry, brother. Fuck! That's okay, dude. Pong, you don't gotta be sorry, bro. Shit. We had like last year, we had like tons of shows get stopped. And actually, a few episodes ago, I accidentally just stopped our show mid-show. If you can't make it back, it's okay. We got tomorrow night. Jim Ryan banned Pong. That's what I'm thinking happened, guys. I mean, do you think Sony has the rights to the lines in Pong's neighborhood? You think so? I think Sony's like has a like small subsidiary in the town that Pong lives in, and they're having him them fuck up his internet connection. That's what I think it is. EA Play and Game Pass. Yes. At least it's still PM in the PM with Psychonauts. Yeah, we'll see when Psycho gets here. Uh-oh. Oh, I said that. What did I say? I said who's going to crash the show? How did I know? How did I know? It's not PM in the PM right now. It's JM in the JM. What's up, Jasper?
Yeah, I had to change it up. We're not doing times anymore here.
we miss Pong. He's fighting with Sony over his internet connection, I think. How you doing?
All right.
Thanks.
I don't know.
Thanks for crashing the show.
You opened it up, so you said crash it. So I crashed it.
I put it in the fun. I put it in the Fun Spec Fam on DM on purpose in case anybody just wanted to crash the show, because this is weird. We're just having fun bullshitting now. But dude, what about Activision Brazil, man? What do you think? Like, you think they're going to be able to use that to strengthen their case or no?
I don't think the U.S. government or the EU gives a shit about what Brazil thinks, to be honest.
Probably true. But well, let's say it helps Microsoft argue their case. Is where I'm coming from. You know,
for sure,
I mean?
they can point. They have more evidence, saying like, look, Brazil doesn't care what we do. You know, so like it obviously helps them out because they have more evidence and statements from other leaders around the world. Be like, see, they don't care. But at the end of the day, I don't think U.S. or EU really gives a crap.
Yeah, they're going to posture as much as they can on their own end, right? Psycho, I sent you a leak, bro. Where are you at, man? What, are you still driving home? We'll see. Psycho said he would come on, but I don't know where he's at. Yeah, dude. Here's the thing with Brazil. It's like all the talking points are laid out exactly like we have been saying, right?
Yeah.
And they address Call of Duty specifically so much because, again, that was the only challenge. And that because they addressed Call of Duty specifically so much in there, makes me aware that when the CMA posted their response to say they were going to phase 2 and all that stuff, and they made like a big public stink about it, and they talked about COD there, and then with the Brazilian documents that were shown before, talking about how much Sony was focusing on Call of Duty and all these things. Again, this whole transaction is coming down to Call of Duty, because if there was more challenges beyond that Brazil had to really consider, they would have focused more of their language and their reasoning why moving forward, allowing the deal to go through without any restrictions. There would have been other reasoning besides focusing so much on COD. Like, you saw the 6 points there, right? And like, they're all really small except for the sections that have to do with COD and not protecting a specific competitor, right?
It's usually most other countries kind of look towards the U.S. economy for like what they need to do, because the U.S. is kind of like a global powerhouse,
a global leader. Yeah.
So like, I just don't know if it adds really too much weight for like because the main two like countries that everyone's like looking at is the U.S. and then the EU, all those countries together. So it's like, I don't know if anyone's actually just like, well, Brazil's done it, so like, you know, why don't we follow them? It's like, I don't.
Yeah, I don't think they're following their lead.
Yeah,
right. What I think that could help a little bit is like the lawyers from Microsoft could.
Yeah, they obviously have statements from other powerhouses that they can point to.
Right. Exactly. They can say like, okay, well, here's the points that they made, and they're doing their job as they said that their body was formed to do. Right. So why are you doing it differently? And this is their findings. How is yours different? Right. And they can potentially use that as an argument piece. Right. That's what I think, at least. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down. What's up, Psycho brother? How's it going?
Yo, how's it going?
This is
my PC is slow as fuck, so you know.
Oh yeah, do you have it like turned off?
Yeah, I turn it off because if I don't, my bedroom is like 100 degrees. It's
Holy shit!
fucking
What kind of PC do
yeah.
you have?
An old one that's very hot.
Right on.
I'm not saying
Okay.
Brazil doesn't matter. Just like I see the chats like throwing shade. Like they matter, but it's just like
As far
compared
as
to, like,
as far as regulatory agencies,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if anything, this kind of gives them a stance like, you know, if they gotta look at other world leaders, what others are saying about the deal, they can go back and see, oh, here's Brazil. They give a very lengthy explanation of what they feel about the contract and how it's about the consumer versus, you know, PlayStation's stance on how they're, you know, they're sitting there saying that's bad for our gamers. So I think they'll look at it in that aspect, but they will still at the end of the day have their own say.
And to be honest with that, I don't think the other countries should even look at other countries. If they're deciding for their
Right.
country, they should only focus on their country, not
Yeah,
like
you make a
others.
good point there because it's
Yeah.
they're supposed to be looking out for their consumers, but like
yeah.
really the consumers, like how this would affect their consumers would be the same.
Yeah.
I would
It
think,
should all be
right?
the same, but if they're
Yeah.
going to go into it independent, they shouldn't look at other
Mhm.
countries and what they're deciding.
Yeah, you can. I guess that would be a thing. They can't let other countries influence what their own decision is.
Yeah.
Right? Is what you're saying, and I agree with that. I just think that maybe the language used could be pointed at and be like, you know, look, what's your job as a regulator, right?
Yeah.
Is your job as a regulator to protect Sony and save them from losing some money potentially or having to change the way they do business? Or is your job to protect the industry? And at the end of the day, that helps protect the consumer, right? And if they can't answer that question directly, like I feel like it's just in the bag for Microsoft, like because all of the challenges have been so Sony favored because that's the only challenger. So it's none of their jobs to protect Sony's bottom line, and Sony is going to be fine. PlayStation will be. I mean, Sony maybe not because their stocks are dropping anyway even before this. But Brazil says hello. What's up, Brazil? How's it going? You matter, Brazil. I just want to let you know. I said hello in Portuguese, so I know it's real. Psycho. What are the are you surprised there was no consent request or restriction request, whatever?
Yeah, really, it kind of took me by surprise. Only because with everything that Sony was saying, I was really feeling that, you know, they're like, okay, well, maybe we should put a stipulation in there that COD should be on PlayStation or something along the line. But with their verdict, and they came out and pretty much said, fucking compete, pretty much. I was very shocked. It's good to see that they took their own stance and what they believe was right for their consumers and not what PlayStation felt what their consumers wanted. So it was good to see that they had their own say at the end. It was good to see that.
Yeah.
It did shock me though.
Yeah. I think it was interesting just how one-sided it was. Right. I mean, obviously they're approving the deal or no, nothing like that, but just the language and how targeted it was back at PlayStation. Were you? That was pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, it was. I wonder. I mean, I think they did relinquish every document that was presented to Brazil from Sony, so I don't think there's anything else. But there could have been phone calls that, you know, them I wouldn't say begging and pleading, but really defending their case, how this is not good for their customers, and they probably they were like fed up and said, listen, motherfuckers, this is what's up. You have to compete. There's nothing, you have exclusives. You you do it the most out of all the gaming companies. And so at the end of the day, Microsoft, they're spending $70 billion for these games. And if they make it exclusive, as they said, they're going to lose that revenue from the PlayStation side, but they could make it up in other means. So it was just really it was really cool to see that, they kind of stuck it to Sony. As in the fanboy side, it was nice. It was Twitter was pretty nice today.
Yeah, it was nice yesterday too.
It was quiet. It was fucking quiet.
What did y'all?
I have.
What y'all think of Need for Speed?
Dude,
It's okay.
The animations, like the wings spreading out and the dollar bills and all, like I'm not all for that.
I'm waiting to see if that's in gameplay or if that's just like
commercial
cutscenes. Yeah.
I think it's gameplay.
Yeah. If it's gameplay, as Pong pointed out, if there is a customization like toggle that you can change, if you can have like stars or something psychedelic or like goth or whatever, you have your own, like there's like they have their own animations for whatever. Then if you can change it depending on how obnoxious over the top it is, because sometimes like those bat wings kind of like, I was like, what the fuck is this, Batman? Like,
Yeah,
I did not like.
I think there's going to be options to customize that stuff, so maybe you can just like remove it off the car.
If you can remove it, that'd be fucking sweet.
I'm thinking cars, like Fortnite, you can equip the entrails from like falling from the sky or whatever, and you have like your default one or whatever, but you can equip all these different ones and look different, right? Like, what if like that those are customization options within the cars?
If they do like a realistic option, and then like everything else is like you can change it to make it like green smoke, red smoke, stuff like that, I think it'll be all right. But I think you have to also have that realistic option in there, and then go wacky on top of that. You can't just like do all wacky. You got to have
all wacky. I like the wacky, but what if there's a one option that's like really toned down wacky, like subtle wacky? Is like level one? Level one, you get a subtle wacky.
Cartoon like smoke. It's like, I don't know, like having realistic cars and then having like animation come at the back. It's like kind of weird. Like, give me realistic smoke, and if I want to make my car look like a cartoon, I'll do that.
Like a cartoon flame popping out of the tailpipe. Or like it's the Star Wars going to hyperspace. You got the fucking lights just start going speeding up when you hit the nitrous boost, shit like that. I don't know. It's a different take on
the same
Need
thing
for
as
Speed.
Rocket League. Like Rocket League, you can have like little like smoke stuff on you, but you also go wacky with it if you want. You can make it shoot out random shit.
Yeah, I think I'll have like mine bedazzles. Shoots like little fucking stars and sparklers. But no, I like the realistic car aspect. The adding of the anime like animations kind of threw me off. The anime characters, I was like, at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be like,
it's just the way so they don't have to hire actors, they can just animate it, save money.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, so they're gonna go this route, and then I saw the cars, like, oh, like, so what is this game about? And it kind of really don't go too much into it with the trailer, but I just want a more in-depth gameplay trailer. I don't want another cinematic.
The interesting note with that is if you pre-order, you get $150,000 for multiplayer mode. So I'm wondering if there's a single player mode, and also with the multiplayer mode, is 150K a lot of money, or is that just like, can you earn that in 5 minutes? Because if it's like 5 minutes, it's all right. But if it's like that takes
it says specifically for the multiplayer mode.
Yeah, it says specifically when you pre-order, you get 150,000 cash for multiplayer.
I wonder. So that's got to be for customization that you can use in multiplayer. I would think,
or
right?
buying cars or something. Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind if they had a separate mode entirely for multiplayer and single player, and then like your multiplayer has like a long-term progression aspect to it. You know what I mean? And then like the single player, you have like more of a story-based campaign type deal. You know what I mean? Because I would think maybe they're treating this as a live service game, right? And that may be one of the reasons they decide to go with the cosmetic aspects to allow more options for monetization and things over time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not saying I don't mind that. Like, if let's say I was still playing Need for Speed Underground now, and it was like had all this shit in it, you know what I mean, that they added on for all these different years, all these seasons and stuff, you know, like over time. Like, I could foresee that adding longevity to a game, especially if it's tied just to the multiplayer mode.
The only thing is, I don't know how the longevity on racing games kind of is, because like once you explore the map in single player and then you go multiplayer, it's like you just drive around.
Yeah,
you know?
they would have to introduce new cars over time and do like
maybe new areas or something like that. Yeah,
potentially a new area, or have like this grinding aspect of like competition.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, have these races, you win money, you upgrade your car, kind of have it like a real competition there. You know what I mean? Have class-based races and stuff like that, you know. I could foresee them doing some big things. I just don't know what it's been absent for so long, and like especially for Criterion. And I don't know what direction they're going to go with this, but it sounds pretty cool.
I just hope they don't follow suit of Gran Turismo 7 with its monetization of cars.
I don't think anything's going to be as crazy as that.
I just hope they don't. I just hope they don't. I would like the grind for some cars, but not that grindy. That's a very grindy car game.
Well, multiplayer, I don't mind grindy as well, right? Like because if you're trying to get a long-term progression, right?
But you know, if it has a nice progression, like, you know, X amount of credits that you get, it's a nice amount of credits, whatever for your wins. That, you know, like 4 or 5 wins could get you a really like tuning up your car to get a new headers or new cylinder heads or something like that. That'd be cool. But if it's like I gotta play, you know, 15 matches so I can just get a fucking a tailpipe, you know, I'd be kind of pissed.
Yeah,
I'm kind of wondering if they have to have another way to earn money besides racing, because it's also an open world driving game. So I feel like not everyone's going to want to just grind races. There has to be some other way to earn money in the open world, I feel like.
Depends on what it is, like how this game is going to be, like doing missions, possibly like I don't know if they're going to do like there's a semi truck, kind of like Fast and Furious. There's a semi truck that you have to get car parts from and chase it down, and so, or something like that. Maybe that could be a thing. I don't know, because they really haven't gone into what campaign is going to be.
Fuzzy says it'd be awesome. It'd be if they allow pink slip racing, could get interesting.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Could you imagine,
dude?
There's pink slip racing in the trailer, right? Like he said,
if you beat, yeah, he did.
He said if you beat me, you get the car, right? So, but that kind of took me to like Fast and Furious days, right? Like, so I'm wondering, like, if they brought that into multiplayer though, that could get fucking crazy. Like, I don't know, like.
That could be very crazy.
Or you can like flip flop, like during the night you can be a cop, or at night you can be a street racer. During the day you're a cop or a street racer, like either or, and you earn money. Like today I'm going to be a cop, and you like try to catch street racers or something. Yeah,
cop by days, illegal street racing at night.
They did that in one of their in a Hot Pursuit, kind of. You know, like you could choose to be the cop or you could be the racer. Yeah. But I like the invasion idea. I would like to invade somebody's game as a cop. You know what I mean? In the multiplayer mode, maybe that'll be a thing.
Can we get
maybe that's the way you can earn money? You know, catch people doing like
wreck people out.
Yeah, just like racing.
Can we get crossplay with that too, and get into like other people's games, and you know, like.
Well, it's only next gen, right? So it would be PS5, Xbox, and PC. But
yeah,
they're going more next gen than PlayStation is.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see who's really has a PS5 when this game comes out. Just kidding. If they have crossplay,
I would like to, with the way the characters are, it would be pretty badass if you could actually get out of the car and do stuff in like these little hub environments and stuff.
And you just see a fucking Fortnite dude get out of a realistic car. It's like-
Yeah, that would be insane. Could you imagine that? Like going into these like little hub environments and just like all these like crazy cartoon looking guys
Oh,
walking
look,
around.
it's Goku.
Did they say if we're gonna be able to customize our own characters?
I don't think your character even matters. It's about the car.
I know, but there's all these other characters in the game. So like if you're playing
Yeah,
multiplayer, like will they see when they pat, if you drive by
I
someone?
think
An
it's going to
empty
be
car.
more a Fortnite situation where you buy skins, so you get like a Goku or Master Chief, that type of shit.
Because
As your
usually in
customer
Need for Speed,
character.
you don't see your character though. It's usually just
Yeah.
like told to you. Like you're just kind of like a floating camera.
Right.
Well, except for what's the Heat? Was it Heat?
Some of the Need for Speeds, you have a character that has like a voice.
You see yourself, I believe, in one of the games because you have to pick out your
You see your
outfit.
hands. You see your hands in a lot of racing games. If you're in the if you have a cockpit view, which they didn't mention at all either. I don't.
I
Think.
mean, if they don't have like a fucking view thing where you can go inside and outside your car, that's going to be stupid.
They've done it. Some games have done it like that. I don't think Burnout Paradise had a cockpit view. I could be wrong. But that was.
You don't want to. That's about crashing. You don't want to fucking be in first person and do like the
Yeah,
360.
I did.
spins.
I did. I want to. I love cockpit view in racing games. Like that's the way I prefer to play usually. Shout out to Mike Sperling. How's it going, dude?
Was it what is it? Burnout Takedown?
There was
The where they kind of just do like the crazy crashes and things.
Burnout 3 Takedown. Yeah.
Yeah, the good burnouts.
Yeah, those are. I love those games. So, and I think that is Criterion. Is a
Criterion. Yeah.
Criterion. So if
They
if
made
it's the
Burnout
same
Paradise was
crew-
also the last open world.
Burnout.
that we
And
had.
that was garbage.
I did not play it, so I don't know. Even
You
the
didn't play
game in
Paradise?
gameplay. Mm-mm.
Paradise was great,
'cause
man.
I had no one to really play with because that
I
one.
like
I
it
think
when
that
Burnout had more of a focus. Like you just like select a mission, try to earn as much money as possible. Like not. I think that's what
Yeah.
made Burnout. But then it just got where that doesn't work with current game strategies. and,
There's
like,
some
marketing.
arcade games that kind of copied
Yeah.
that are out there that are pretty fun. Star Traffic says Jim Ryan is looking for a regulatory fixer.
they're gonna acquire Brazil to change their mind.
Quite. Sony can't afford that. Unless they sell their games. If they sell every game they own 4 times, maybe eventually they'll be able to pay off some more of the regulators.
They're on pace. So
Yeah, on pace.
on pace.
Let's see.
Don't forget Brazil's corrupt. Remember, so Microsoft paid them off to get that.
That's what
That
people are
was,
saying. People are saying Microsoft's paid off Brazil.
Yeah, I was like, get the fuck out of here! Come on, guys, really? What happens when the DOJ and the EU have the same outcome? Are you gonna say they're paid off too?
I don't think
No,
they'll have the
I mean-
exact same outcome though. I think they're going to be like, oh, I mean, some of them have already gone into phase 2. Which did Brazil even do that?
Well, it's all different. They may even have like a phase thing. Right.
Right.
Just be like
They probably they did their own findings and they probably just skipped phase 1 and went right into phase 2. So it's probably phase 1 could have been reaching out to Sony and
Well, usually like
Microsoft.
what we've seen from these, I don't know how it usually works, but like what we've seen from these so far is like phase 1 was them asking questions to all the publishers and everybody, and then phase 2 is if they decide they need to investigate it further, right? And then like that's what the CMA made the big stink. Oh, call foul because Call of Duty, right? And that's when they announced that. The FTC a long time ago said they were going into phase 2, and then they said they needed more time in phase 2 as well, right? So that's kind of where we're at with all these things. So already it's been different than Brazil, right? But
Yeah.
I think that the overall answer may be the same, right?
CMA said what December they're gonna have their verdict, and the EU was March of 2023. Is that what I read? Do you
EU,
guys remember that?
I think one of them is November, one of them is like March, I think.
Yeah. I thought the CMA was March or November because they already went into phase 2. Because I thought they said it was uh I believe it was the EU
They can
stated that
also extend all these
March.
days if they really want.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the EU, the March is, I think the end, like the very last of the normal uh, time frame that they could have. I think that's max without, I think, going back to saying that they need more time.
Yeah. I have no freaking clue, man. It's like crazy. Yeah, Alvin says FTC is in November. And I'm assuming this deal is going to get done just like Microsoft. Microsoft's been so ahead of the ball game on this entire thing. When they said end of the year fiscal 2023, that's what I guess, what to expect, in my opinion, right? I don't foresee that it's still not getting done. It just depends on how long a little bit of these processes take, right? So I would still think the earliest, and what we talked about before, was like early next year, sometime first quarter, right around that March timeline. Once everybody says approved, is it still not done because they still
Even
have
when
to?
it gets done, you still got to wait like a couple months after just for them to make sure all the
Yeah, there's
paperwork's
a
in order
whole
before we start
transitional
seeing the
phase,
advantages of
right?
it and all
Right.
that. Yeah.
Maybe they can start doing things like dropping games into Game Pass and all that kind of stuff, right? Things like that. But well, Pong's not going to make it back, everybody.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he's going to sue Spectrum, I think, probably after this
Oh
show.
well, good luck with that, brother.
Do you
They're
still
most corrupt motherfuckers.
do you still have Pong's outro written down, Jasper, from when you did that one time?
I didn't write it down.
You
but
memorized it?
I only wrote down what his dates were for so I could remember the dates. But I mean, I could try.
You want to try and give a Pong Soul outro?
Sure. Okay.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
You just the only one I know that's done a halfway decent job.
Listen, brothers, great show tonight. Chat, you guys are amazing. You guys know the drill. Pong Soul everywhere. Pong Soul Twitter, Pong Soul Xbox. Find me there. I'll follow you. You follow me back. Whatever. Something like that. Anyway, tomorrow, Xbox Ultimate. All the fam talking about Xbox news. Sure, we'll cover the Brazilian topic, get everyone's opinions and topics on that, get different takes. Amazing. Love the family. And then Saturday morning, living split screen. Mission 1K. If we get to 1K by the end of this year, Steel's going to stream Callisto Protocol, and he doesn't do scary games, so it's going to be a good one. Make sure you subscribe to Living Split Screen. I'll put out a video probably tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And then also Saturday night is PTK Blam. Me, Fuzzy PTK. I can't remember who the guest is this week because I didn't even look. So
That sounds like Pong.
Check that out. And then Tuesday, it's Double Barrel Gaming. Xbox Factory I think that's what they call that.
Yep.
I'm probably not going to be there this week because I haven't been on there in like 15 months, but check that out. And then it's back again with PM in the PM, where hopefully I'll have internet connection next week. So stay tuned for that. Golden Age of Gaming, everyone. Play what you love what you play.
Right on, man. I fucking nailed it, dude. Oh gosh, that's great.
That was beautiful.
Psycho, tell everybody where they can find you besides banging your mom. I mean, not your mom.
Banging their mom. Yes. All right, folks. You heard it right. Follow me everywhere, social media, Psychonauts8. I just love you guys, and it was awesome. Sorry, Pong, that your internet was out. So hopefully that will be fixed by tomorrow. I know, me too, Caitlin. That was fucking hilarious, Jasper. And you can follow me again. So social media everywhere. I actually got the social media manager for Buzzed Sports Cleveland. It's a Twitter page, and we post everything sports related for Cleveland. So check that out. If you see Buzz Sports, that is more than likely me or another colleague. But yeah, check it out. Fridays, tomorrow, Xbox Ultimate, where we will be talking so much more about this and everything else gaming because who knows what tomorrow brings, because it's Friday. And Mondays FPS, check me out. 10 o'clock. And yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for stepping in here, having some fun. You know, we just kind of took it sideways and chilled a little bit. And now, actually, Jasper himself, the lore master himself, where can everybody find you, sir?
You can check me out, Lord Jasper on Twitter, Lord Master Jasper on YouTube. I think I'm going to try to do something different with my channel when Call of Duty comes out. Maybe like be a little more consistent with it. So the end of October, it should be interesting over there. So check that out. But yeah, that's about it. Tomorrow night, Xbox Ultimate. FSP is Monday.
Watch Jasper get 50 kill plus games in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
that's the name of his new
channel is going to be Call of Duty Jasper, Call of Duty Master Jasper. Well, chat, you guys rocked this whole way through. Thanks everybody. Sorry, Pong, dude, we missed you, man. When you left, you were on a roll. I was enjoying just chilling, listening to that 30-minute rant. It seemed like, and I wish we got the rest of it. But you have your opportunity tomorrow. As long as your internet comes through, we'll get the rest of that. But everybody else, hey, Mike, Sperling, appreciate you. Fuzzy, as always, dude, love you, man. Ray, Oid, it's Timmy. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Alvin was here. Star Traffic, a shout out to you. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Yeah, lots of awesome people here tonight, guys. Awesome show. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to Brazil and Cade for actually stopping by in the chat earlier. I think I know who that was. That's awesome as always.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all have a good one and take it easy. And we'll see you tomorrow night on Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern with these two fellas and more. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.